everyone can hear us.
Good evening. This is a special notice from the City of Paramount pursuant to Executive Order N-29-20 executed by the Governor of California on March 17th, 2020, and as a response to mitigating the spread of coronavirus known as COVID-19. The regular meeting of the City Council scheduled for Tuesday, July the 7th at 6 p.m. will allow the members of the public to participate and address the City Council during the open session of the meeting via live stream and or teleconference only. And with that, I will turn it over to Mayor Lemons for the call to order. Mayor?
Thank you, John. So we're going to call the July 7th meeting of the Paramount City Council to order. And we're going to have the Pledge of Allegiance led by Councilmember Isabel Aguayo and the invocation by Pastor Grady Jones at the New Commandment Baptist Church.
If everyone will please rise for our Pledge of Allegiance. Place your right hand over your heart. Ready, begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Let us pray. Eternal God, our Father, make it pray that this can become your presence, thanking you for another day. As we enter this day, Father God, we thank you for your rest and grace upon us to see another day. As we come to the council meeting, Father God, invite your presence in our meeting, Father God, into the households, every citizen, Paramount, not only the citizen, but every nation. Pray, Father, for our nation as a whole, Father, there's much price and turmoil on the land. God, as you step in and bring some peace and stability to our land, Father God, help this virus condition, Father God. Pray for strength our council members, Father God, continue to endure the high, Father God, they lead your people where you have to go. We thank you for all you've done, what you're going to do for us, Father, keeps all in thy will. Help us to love one another, thy loved us. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
Thank you very much, Pastor Jones and Councilmember Aguayo. Roll call of council members, please.
Councilmember Aguayo.
I'm here.
Councilmember Guillen.
Here.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings.
Here.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Here.
Mayor Lemons.
Here. Okay, next we're going to move into presentations. And the first one that we have tonight is for the Celico WDB, the Workforce Development Board. The first is our involvement with the Southeast Los Angeles County Workforce Board, better known as Celico. Celico is a resource center for businesses and job seekers. It provides a wide range of services that help businesses survive and thrive, and individuals find jobs or create careers. Celico serves 8 area cities, with Paramount having joined on July 1st. It is a well-respected organization, and it's going to bring great value to our community, especially with the economy recovering from the pandemic. Now more than ever, job placement is critical. So we are pleased to be a member of this terrific organization. And tonight we have taped messages of welcome from the Lakewood Mayor Jeff Wood, who is the Celico Board President, Bellflower City Council Member Sunny Santa Ynez, who is the Vice President, and Yolanda Castro will also be with us, the Executive Director of Celico. So at this time, we'll hear the message.
Hello, I'm Jeff Wood, Vice Mayor of the City of Lakewood and Chair of the Celico Policy Board. I wanted to take this opportunity to officially welcome the City of Paramount to the Celico family. The City of Paramount now joins the cities of Artesia, Bellflower, Cerritos, Downey, Hawaiian Gardens, Lakewood, and Norwalk in providing workforce development services to over 500,000 residents in the 8 cities we represent. A special thank you to the current and former members of the Paramount City Council, City Manager John Moreno, and your city staff who supported and participated in the formal application process. We welcome Mayor Peggy Lemons to the Policy Board and look forward to welcoming Paramount business owners who will serve on our Workforce Development Board. Celico is ready to serve the Paramount residents who are seeking employment or looking to enhance their job skills. On behalf of the Celico Policy Board and now our 8 cities, welcome Paramount. We look forward to working with you and the residents we serve.
My name is Sunny Santa Ynez, Council Member of the City of Bellflower and Vice Chair of the Southeast Los Angeles County Workforce Development Policy Board, commonly known as Celico. On behalf of the residents of the City of Bellflower in the Southeast Los Angeles County region, I'm honored to welcome the City of Paramount to the Celico Workforce Development Board. Paramount will have seats at the table to chart the course for our region's workforce development efforts. In addition, Paramount's residents will have access to top-quality job training. On the other hand, Celico will now have over 500,000 residents in our service area, thereby enhancing our ability to apply for grants. So this is a win-win situation for all of us. I look forward to working with the City of Paramount, particularly with Mayor Peggy Lemons, as we improve the lives of the people in our service area. Thank you and welcome, City of Paramount.
And now we have with us the Executive Director of Celico, Yolanda Castro, who'd like to say a few words.
Good evening, and thank you, Mayor Lemons and council members, for the opportunity to address your council. As mentioned by Jeff Woods and Sunny Santinez, the Celico WIB team is excited to have the City of Paramount join our service area. Your city manager, John Moreno, and I started this process in December 2018. And with the support of your city council, county supervisor, Janice Hahn, and her staff, the support of our existing 7 city representatives, and Paramount staff member David Johnson, we successfully completed the application process. We convinced the California Workforce Development Board and the Governor of California that bringing the City of Paramount under the Celico umbrella was a solid and effective move for the businesses and job seekers in our region. Effective July 1st, 2020, Celico is now an 8-city service delivery area, and we are excited to have you as part of our team. The Celico team looks forward to working in partnership with you and your staff in addressing the workforce needs of our cities. We appreciate this opportunity to be of service. Thank you again, and have a great evening.
And we want to thank the board members, Mr. Woods and Mr. Santinez, and of course the Executive Director, Ms. Castro. And we're very happy to join Celico. I had my first meeting with this group, and they are truly dedicated and concerned and already planning to do big things to help our business community and our residents through the pandemic.
It's an honor to be part of your team.
Thank you so much. Next up, we have a presentation for National Park and Recreation Month. Tonight, we're proclaiming July as National Park and Recreation Month in the City of Paramount. Parks and recreations are vital to our communities. They promote health, well-being, conservation, and social equity. They make our communities better places to live, to work, and to play by protecting open space, natural resources, helping to fight obesity, and providing an array of activities and resources. Park and Recreation Month, in addition to celebrating our parks, also celebrates the professionals who run and maintain them. In Paramount, we have a tradition of robust recreational services available for all ages. These have always been administered by a talented and committed staff. So as we proclaim National Park and Recreation Month, we also thank our Community Services and Recreation Department for its great dedication and excellent leadership. And my personal thanks to everybody who works in our park and recreation staff. Not only have you done a tremendous job on all of the regular programs and events and projects we have going on, but you have certainly raised the standard when it comes to doing special treatment for our senior citizens and our students are at home through the pandemic. So we're very blessed to have such a great working relationship and to have such professional people working for the City of Paramount. With that, we'll move on to public comment updates with Mr. Moreno.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. The following are from the public comment period of June 16th, 2020. The first one is from Ms. Raquel de Casas. She requested that the city do more to support Black residents and combat racial injustices. As an after action, Mayor Lemons did respond to Ms. de Casas in an email on June 23rd, explaining that to counter these issues of disenfranchisement in our society, the city works at helping the community by implementing a balanced menu of human and social service programs. Diversity, health, wellness, safety, and tolerance are woven into the fabric of this approach that we have. Additionally, the city has formed a committee of clergy, PUSD, a PUSD representative, and others to address what is being called unity in the community, where the topics of racism, tolerance, and police relations will be discussed. And this will be composed through a series of community town hall discussions, which will be held, and those will kick off most likely later this month, so the latter part of July, early part of August. The committee has met twice already, and we are meeting once more this week to put the final touches on our first community forum discussion. So that will be taking place very soon. Additionally, there were a number of speakers that spoke about two issues: fireworks and street racing intersection takeovers. Both city staff members and the city attorney, as well as Captain Springle from our Lakewood Station Sheriff's Department, addressed these concerns immediately after those public comments were done. And that response is included below, and I'll go over that in a minute. Additionally, Mr. Michael Radis, he had some comments in addition to the fireworks and the street racing. And in particular, he mentioned that during the street racing incident that occurred on June 13th, emergency personnel were inhibited from responding to a medical emergency at the senior apartment complex on Vermont. As an after action, staff spoke with the fire captain at LA County Fire Department Station 31, and he stated that emergency personnel had no problems responding to that particular call on that evening on Vermont Avenue. And the next one was from Ms. Victoria Casas, and Ms. Casas requested that we close the gate on San Vicente leading into Salud Park in response to increased crime in that area. Staff looked into the concern. We contact Ms. Casas to explain why the gate will remain open. We explained that providing two entrances to Salud Park makes it very convenient for the residents from that neighborhood to access the park. And also we checked on crime statistics for that adjacent residential area, and they showed that no calls for service were reported during that time frame. However, staff is attempting to meet with Ms. Casas and her neighbors to find out what the issues are, crime-related, and if there can be a resolution to that. I should also note that this park has really been enjoyed by all the residents in the area. It is very well used by residents in the Sand Streets area, as well as the Gasoline Streets. During the closure of the park in response to COVID, we had several inquiries from the neighborhood asking when we were going to reopen the park. So there does seem to be a lot of usage. And we want to, again, make sure that access to the park is maintained. So again, we will be following up with Ms. Casas to make sure that her public safety issues are addressed. Now on to fireworks. As I mentioned a few minutes ago, That was one of the main comments that were presented during that evening. There seems to be some confusion, and I kind of explained that at the last council meeting. Confusion between legal and illegal fireworks. Paramount does allow safe and sane fireworks, and those go on sale late in the month of June. Illegal fireworks are including those that are exploded or launched in the air, are illegal in all cities in California. I did go over some of the plans that we had for to address illegal fireworks throughout the month of June and into July. We had a dispatcher occasionally dedicated to fireworks calls in Paramount. We also made attempts to call back informants whenever they did call in information about illegal fireworks that were taking place. We started, as I mentioned last month, an illegal fireworks reward program. We did give out a few rewards to residents that informed us about people discharging illegal fireworks. And finally, we did several efforts in the communication spectrum to address this. We had electronic message boards throughout key areas of town. We had wooden signs displayed throughout the city. We had a street banner over Paramount Boulevard. We distributed door hangers in key areas. We posted social media messages educating the public. And as a result, for this year, from June 1st to July 5th, the deputies actually issued 70 fireworks citations for either using, possessing, or selling illegal fireworks. And of the 70, 41 of those citations were issued on July the 4th alone. And this compares to last year, where we had only 45 citations issued during that same period. So it definitely was a large increase that we saw. So the deputies were definitely active at trying to quell the illegal fireworks that were going on. Additionally, there was discussion about street racing, and Captain Springle addressed this as well as our city attorney, and we talked about different approaches that we could take to address that. We talked about the grant that we received from the state of California, and that was part of the budget presentation as well. And that grant will be used for enforcement purposes. And we did have a meeting with our deputy district attorney, the city attorney, and the sergeants from the Paramount Sheriff's Station. And that meeting was held a couple of weeks ago, and we brainstormed things on what to do and how to combat this. And they will continue to deploy strategies regarding street racing and intersection takeovers over the next few months. So with that, Madam Mayor, that does conclude my report on the City Council public comment updates, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, John, for that report. And in line with what you had to say, Mr. Kavanaugh, are you on the line with us?
Yes, I am, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so I know that we had requested that you do a report from us, which I think all of the City Council received, about possibly prosecuting the fireworks or the street racing as felonies. I know what I read, I know what I understand, but I wonder if you could recap that, and then if the council has any questions, we could go over that.
Yes, certainly, Madam Mayor, I can do that. The Deputy DA, Kelly Tatman, gave a brief report on the fireworks violations, but I can summarize that for you as well. Essentially, the fireworks violations are governed under the Health and Safety Code, and they classify fireworks as either dangerous fireworks or safe and sane fireworks. Those fireworks which are defined as dangerous fireworks that John had described with those fireworks that are illegal, those are essentially the violation, the penalty for those violations is a misdemeanor. That is, and is based upon the number of pounds of these illegal or dangerous fireworks. And essentially what that means is that possession of 25 to 100 pounds of dangerous fireworks is a misdemeanor. Any possession of fireworks, of dangerous fireworks, of 101 to 5,000 pounds can be prosecuted as either a misdemeanor or a felony. So in other words, in the legal field, in the prosecution, it's called a wobbler offense. And that basically means that prosecutors may file as either a misdemeanor or a felony, depending on the facts of the case and the defendant's criminal history. So it's broken down based on the weight of that, but essentially most fireworks violations are misdemeanors at that point. And then you have violations where someone sells dangerous fireworks to minors, and that is a misdemeanor as well. However, if there is a second or subsequent conviction of selling dangerous fireworks to a minor, the penalty provision becomes higher, which is an additional $5,000 or 1 year in county jail. So those are basically misdemeanors for the fireworks. If any of you have any questions on the fireworks, I'd be glad to answer that before I go into the street racing, which is a little bit more complicated and a little more convoluted, but I'll try to explain it the best I can with respect to how those are being articulated as violations. Does anybody have any questions on the fireworks?
I have one question, John.
Yes.
This is Councilmember Laura again. On the fireworks, misdemeanors, explosives, how are you categorizing those? Like your M80s, your quarter sticks, dynamite, the things that we were hearing in Paramount.
That's a very good.
That were shaking, the things that were shaking the neighborhood, setting off car alarms.
And that's a very good question, Council Member. According to what the code says, those dangerous fireworks are, they include, there's a broad definition, but they include items such as rockets and sparklers bigger than 10 inches in length or 1/4 inch in diameter. They also include those small bombs that go off. So pretty much what you're describing would probably fall within what is defined as a dangerous firework for purposes of the code.
They're not fireworks, though. They're explosive devices. So that's where we were getting, like, confused. Yeah. Fireworks that are illegal to possess are the ones that, only people who are going to produce a large fireworks show.
Yes.
Those would be illegal for somebody to possess their fireworks. But when we're talking about explosive devices, like quarter sticks of dynamite, your M80s,
yeah.
The things we were hearing, those are explosive devices, and those are felonies. That's what I was trying to differentiate between the two.
Yes, and you're correct.
We can almost tolerate,
yeah.
But it's those loud, crazy booms that we were having issues with, the explosions. And then also, it was important to note that if you've been convicted of a misdemeanor and then you're caught, again, you could be arrested as a felony. Now, if a prosecutor gets the case and says, you know what, they were arrested on a felony, but we think we're going to go ahead and go through with a misdemeanor, is one thing, but you could still be arrested on a felony, correct?
Well, you can be arrested on a felony, yes. If the facts and circumstances seem to justify that, there can be a charge initially of a felony.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to make sure we were on the same page with that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
So this is Mayor Lemons. Based upon what Councilor Member Guillen has shared with us again, when they sell those M80s like she's talking about, the quarter sticks of dynamite and so on. Are those what they're buying for the illegal fireworks? If those illegal fireworks that they sell like in Nevada and different places, is that where they get those? Do they get them under some guise of an explosive device? Are they sold as fireworks? I mean, how is that line drawn?
Madam Mayor, this is the city attorney. I don't know the answer to that question, and I think those probably are separately, unless Sergeant Sanchez can maybe elaborate on those type of devices or explosives. But they would probably be under a different code section because they probably wouldn't be defined as a dangerous firework. Where they get those, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know if Sergeant Sanchez is there and can answer it. I would assume that one of the issues is going to be that once it's exploded, how do you determine what it was? But it would be a different issue if it was caught in your possession, which it sounds like some of our citations took place like that. And if you caught somebody with the types of explosive devices that Councilmember Guillen has talked about, how would you go about that? Do you cite that as fireworks? Do you cite that as explosive devices? And is there an option?
Madam Mayor, Sergeant Sanchez is here, and he can address that issue.
Okay.
Hello, Madam Mayor. I'm going to do my best to answer your question.
Thank you.
In regards to differentiating the types of fireworks, it's one of those things where when you read it, it's almost subject to interpretation. And I understand what Councilmember Guillen was asking in regards to the large explosive devices. In our experience that we've had, especially dealing with fireworks and especially in the city of Paramount and dealing with Compton Court, we've gone under the direction of citing, but going under administrative cites, because we found that that's what's been the most effective in penalizing these people, that we either catch them selling or possessing the illegal fireworks. Because if we took the other route where we find them under the health and safety code, we found that they weren't getting any prosecution behind it. So there was no penalties for them possessing or selling these items.
Okay, I think I understand where you're going. So I guess the answer is really going to come during our fireworks summit when we determine what we're going to do with fireworks moving forward. And that's one of the things that we can discuss is what types of items are in their possession as to how we want to move forward with prosecution stay with. Because even if we outlawed fireworks, we still have to deal with the illegal fireworks that will continue. So that definitely is going to have to be part of our discussion. Thank you. Back to you, Mr. Kavanaugh.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. The issue that I was tasked with presenting to you was the street racing problem that we have in the city and how those violations are being addressed. And essentially, there are three areas, if you will, of this type of vehicle code violation. The first one is reckless driving. And the definition of reckless driving, without going into detail, is basically someone who drives a vehicle upon a highway in willful or wanton disregard for the safety of persons or property is guilty of reckless driving. The second and more common vehicle code violation are what are known as speed contests and exhibitions of speed. A speed contest includes a motor vehicle race against another vehicle, a clock or other timing device. Those are pretty much the type of speed contests that we visually are accustomed seeing, like with Fast and Furious, where you have these speed contests going through. An exhibition of speed is basically, in essence, someone who is exhibiting dangerous speeds in an attempt to show or performance, and those are considered illegal as well. Now, with an exhibition of speed, with a speed contest, and with reckless driving, all three of those offenses are misdemeanors under the law. So, in essence, the fines or penalties for those is usually a fine of up to $300, $400, or $1,000, and maybe 90 days or less in jail with the county jail. So that is the baseline for those offenses. They're misdemeanors. Now, how they can get elevated to a felony is where there are extenuating circumstances as a result of that conduct. And I'll give you a couple of examples under what the code says. If someone is charged with a speed contest, is someone charged with reckless driving, and a third party is injured to an extent that is defined within the code, then the prosecution does have the option to either make a charge of a felony reckless driving or felony street racing to the court based on an injury to the third party. And also, what they want to see is if there's a prior conviction that an individual had, and the individual then is charged with the same crime, and there's an injury, that can be elevated to a felony charge as well as a penalty, which is in state prison. So it does follow in a lot of ways to the fireworks regulations, where if it's an aggravated condition, it can get elevated from a misdemeanor to a felony. But the base violation for those three conduct is a misdemeanor under criminal law anyway. Does anybody questions on that?
Is an aggravated condition and have to involve injury?
An aggravated condition has to involve both a prior conviction or an injury, or under the code, there is a specific code section that says if there is just an aggravated injury, and I can give you a list, Madam Mayor, what they say. If there's not a prior conviction and someone is charged with reckless driving or a street racing, and there's an injury to a third party which results in a loss of consciousness, a concussion, a bone fracture, a protracted loss or impairment of function of a bodily member or organ, a wound requiring extensive suturing, serious disfigurement, brain injury, or paralysis, that will automatically be elevated to a wobbler offense, in which case the prosecution can either bring a charge as a felony, or the court can impose a felony penalty to that charge. So that's one instance where there is an injury only and not a prior conviction, and that could be charged as a felony.
Before I move on to the council, I just have one last question, I think, along this line, which is, so if we're able to catch somebody who's doing these intersection takeovers, and the officer gets there in time, he sees them doing the exhibition of speed, he catches the person, the actual person doing the driving. As long as nobody was hurt, he can only charge him with, write him a ticket or charge him. I'm not sure how the actual process works with a misdemeanor.
Yes, that's correct. If there's not a corresponding injury somewhere, that person will be charged a misdemeanor. If they have a prior conviction, the misdemeanor penalty will be increased, but it's still a misdemeanor.
Okay, I have another question, but I'll go ahead and open it up to the council. You might have something more. Anybody have any questions for John?
I do, Peggy, just really quickly. So, John, you spoke about, so the wobbler also becomes part of the offense, right? In a sense that they're able to declare what you mentioned. So when it comes to the street driving, the wobbler also takes place, just like the fireworks one does, right?
Well, exactly. If there are aggravating circumstances, like I articulated a little bit earlier,
sure.
The prosecution, the district attorney's office can then say, look, based on the facts of the case, the fact that maybe and if there's a prior conviction and there's a subsequent injury to a third party, they then are entitled to file a charge of a felony reckless driving or felony street racing.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
Okay, just for the record, that was Vice Mayor Olmos who posed that question. Anyone else?
Not a question. This is Councilmember Guillen, just a statement. A lot of times, like what people are witnessing is when the police arrive, the suspects scatter. They take off in their vehicles. That presents a whole other number of issues. Let's say an officer goes in pursuit of one of those persons who flee, and they start driving erratically, and they commit 5 or more violations, and something else happens. You know, those are different types of crimes, but it really involves everything that our deputies encounter when they get there. I also heard, and Sergeant Sanchez can probably explain this one better, but I heard about some of our own deputies responding to a location and then having to back out because they were taking rocks and bottles or things being thrown at them, and their vehicle was being charged, so they had to back out and leave. So there are, even though it seems like just misdemeanors, there are other things that are happening when our deputies arrive. Not always, but I just want to share that, you know, it's not just as cut and dry as, okay, this is what they're doing and it's a misdemeanor. There's a whole lot of other things involved when the deputies respond, and it's dangerous. It's dangerous for the public, and it's dangerous for deputies that are trying to, respond to these incidents in a fast manner. So it's something that I wish we could get a hold of because it presents a whole lot of problems, not just legally, but also safety-wise for our community.
Thank you, Councilmember Guillen. This is Mayor Lemons. I agree with you. I believe the entire council agrees with you, which is why we've moved forward with this special committee and trying to draft our own ordinances, because what might seem like a simple, teenage prank, we know presents a lot of danger for a lot of people in the community. And hopefully, we can find something that's going to address this, because the natural laws as they stand don't really back us up in the pursuit of what we need to accomplish here. Along that line, John, with the committee that you've set up to deal with the street racing, can you give us an update on that too? Like what's happening with the committee and the ordinance, and are we moving forward?
Yes, Madam Mayor, I'm glad you asked that question. And this goes in line with Councilmember Guillen is saying and what the rest of the council really, really wants to pursue. And what we're trying to do, we've created a task force. Of course, the LA County Sheriffs have their task force, and we were able to work with them, with Sergeant Sanchez and his team, along with our Public Safety Director, along with Deputy DA Kelly Tatman and myself. And we met a couple times, and what we have come up with is a focused attack on this issue by having our criminal resources available to us. And we know right now that that's not always going to be the most effective because sometimes it isn't, but it's still available to us. We want to pursue that one parallel avenue. The next parallel avenue that we have come up with and that you will be considering is a series of regulatory ordinances that will essentially become more of a civil action against these individuals. And what we're trying to achieve is to bring forth for your consideration a forfeiture ordinance. And basically what a forfeiture ordinance is enables both law enforcement and our office to track down the offending vehicle used in the street racing or the reckless driving or the exhibition of speed. We can track that vehicle down, and if we can show by a preponderance of the evidence that that vehicle was used in the particular circumstances of the exhibition. Doesn't mean that it had to be caught red-handed, but if we can catch them either through cameras and the license plate, we can then file what is known as a public nuisance action in court for a forfeiture of the vehicle. What that means is that if successful, we would be able to actually remove the vehicle from the possession of the registered owner or the driver, and then we would be able to sell it at an auction. The second ordinance we would like to do is to beef up our impounding ordinance, because right now we can impound vehicles. Public safety has the ability to do that. We're coming up with some ways to have tow trucks available on the scene so that we can impound the vehicle if they're caught. And we would raise the costs for the individual to retrieve that vehicle, as well as costs for everything else associated with that in the impounding of the vehicle. The third ordinance that we would like to present to the council is basically we would like to hold accountable individuals or spectators that are there at the scene of either the street race or reckless driving or exhibition of speed contest, so that those individuals who are there are not only pose a safety problem to themselves, but a safety problem to the individuals or cars that are trying to get through the intersection. And we are able then to come up with a regulatory ordinance that would be able to find those individuals as well, in order to create a deterrence that if you're going to go to one of these speed contests and watch these people around the intersection, you may be held accountable and fined for just being there. Finally, we would like to bring a resolution which would establish all the fees associated with these violations so that the city would be able to have those available, and we would basically make an economic message to these people that it's going to cost quite a bit if you're going to do this in the city of Paramount.
When do you have a projection, John, of when you'll be bringing this back to us?
Madam Mayor, I'm working diligently with this. The city manager is reminding me constantly, and I understand that. So I'm working diligently with the deputy district attorney. I would say probably in the next month, I hope to have a draft of those particular ordinances. I do want to have them assessed and evaluated by our public safety and our law enforcement so that we're all on the same page as a process. So I'm looking at probably 45 days.
All right. Thank you, John. Are there any more questions for Mr. Cavanaugh before we move on? Okay, hearing none, we're going to move to public comments.
Yes, Madam Mayor, we tonight have 10 public comments, 9 which are verbal and 1 previously emailed to us. So with that, we'll start off with the verbal ones, and I'll turn it over to Andrew Villalpando, our Assistant City Manager, who will work through each of the public comments. Andrew?
Thank you, John. Good evening, Madam Mayor, members of the City Council. Just a reminder, all public comments this evening will be taken remotely over telephone. Our first public commenter is Leor Alpern. He's from World Energy here in Paramount, and he's our new Government and Community Relations Director. And bear with me while I get him on the line.
Hello.
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Leor Alpern.
Good evening.
Hi, I'm contacting you regarding your request for public comment at the Paramount City Council meeting. You're now being broadcast live to the City Council. Your public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll give you notice when you have 20 seconds left. Your time starts now.
Great. Thank you very much, and good evening, Mayor Lemons, Vice Mayor Olmos, council members, city staff, and members of the public. My name is Leor Alpern, and I recently joined World Energy as Director of Government and Community Relations. I appreciate this opportunity to briefly introduce myself as a point of contact for the city and community. A little bit about my background. My career has been focused in the nonprofit and public sectors, focused on sustainability, environment, clean energy, and clean transportation. I most recently served for the past 12 years at the South Coast Air Quality Management District, handling government and community relations. I'm thrilled to join World Energy, as you know, a leading producer of renewable fuels that are critical for cleaning our air and addressing climate change, and to work with the city and community of Paramount, where I've actually had some past experience that was very positive. City staff have my contact information, and I very much look forward to meeting each of you and helping to maintain and enhance World Energy's role as a paramount business committed to being responsive to the needs of the community and being a trusted partner. Again, thank you very much for your time, and have a pleasant evening, and thank you very much again.
Thank you for your call.
Okay, our next caller will be Raquel de Casas. The subject is just general public comments. 1 second, please.
Hello.
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Raquel de Casas.
Hi.
Hi, I'm contacting you regarding your request for public comment for the Paramount City Council meeting. You're now being broadcast live to the City Council. Your public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and I will give you notice when you have 20 seconds left. Your time starts now.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. First, I would like for the city to review its safety measures for opening the Paramount Splash Pad this summer and truly consider the impacts of such decision. We should not be waiting for the health department to call for closures of municipal pools and splash zones after the number of cases increase and more people die. Next, on June 18th, I emailed City Council members, the City Manager's Office, as well as the Public Safety Director regarding the following concerns, as well as with links to where I got my information from. Based on the information that I have learned, I am seeking to put similar pressure on my city representatives to do better for all of its citizens. As a Paramount citizen, I feel disillusioned by the image it creates for its citizens and how it is actually failing to dismantle the institutional racism that pervades the structures that govern and rule our citizenry. Paramount is one of the 41 cities in LA County that contracts with the LASD as its law enforcement agency, and given the recent events that have come to light regarding how deputies of LASD conduct themselves in other cities, I feel it is imperative for our city to be proactive regarding these issues rather than reactive. With that, I would like to remind you of First They Came by Pastor Martin Niemöller, who was once a Nazi supporter but changed his views when he was imprisoned in a concentration camp for speaking out against Nazi control of churches. First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out because I was not a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me. Paramount citizens and City Council, we must no longer turn our cheek when confronted with the realities of how LASD conducts itself in other cities, and quite frankly, our own. Andres Guardado, Sean Monterrosa, Paul Rea, Tyrone Boone, and Michael Thomas are some of the people who have been killed by LASD in June alone. How long before one of these names is one of our neighbors? That is why today I demand the following. I demand for the city to demand that LASD allow negotiations in their contracts in order to increase transparency, accountability, and justice. No Paramount citizen or visitor should be subject to harassment or intimidation by any LASD deputy. I demand for the city to create a law enforcement review board where community members can lodge complaints and be able to monitor the investigations and final decisions regarding such complaints. I demand the city not accept the $1 million increase in place by LASD and instead use these funds for mental health support services, as Cudahy City Council voted on June 25th to direct its staff to decrease their policing budget. I demand for you, Mayor Lemons, to take the mayor's pledge by President Obama and to follow through. I demand for the city to openly and loudly advocate for the rights of its residents. I would also like a response to my email with a response to each demand. The City of Paramount must do better by demanding accountability from LASD and placing all necessary measures to ensure justice. Thank you for your time. I yield.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay, the next speaker will be Gerald Serta regarding rent moratorium. 1 second, please.
Hello?
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Gerald Serta.
This is Gerald Serta.
Hi, Mr. Serta. I'm contacting you regarding your request for public comment for the Paramount City Council meeting. You're now being broadcast live to the City Council. Your public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and I will give you notice when you have 20 seconds left. Your time starts now.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor, council members. It's been a while since I've called or attended one of the meetings. Doing it by phone is a little bit odd, but we'll give it a shot. Hope all had a nice and safe 4th of July. Also, thank you for the street repavement projects. Our street and neighboring streets are almost complete, just waiting on the speed bumps.
And talking about the speed bumps, we had 2 speed bumps on Perilla and wanted to see if we can add a third one since we still had speedsters, start accelerating between the speed bumps. So we can have a third one. It would probably cut that down, also along the alleyways. But thank you for keeping Paramount safe. During the protesting time, I didn't see any destruction, and if there was some, it might have been minor. But thank you during this time. Also, the main reason for today's call is the city has a moratorium in place to assist renters, residential, during this COVID pandemic, but also for folks with other health issues that limit or refrain them from full-time or part-time employment. Some Paramount residents may be facing evictions or have been self-evicted by tactics being used by landlords. Now, if Paramount has assisted commercial businesses during this pandemic, why not assist the renters as well? And I looked at your Facebook page and noticed that you did initiate the emergency mortgage assistance and emergency rental assistance grant programs funding, also with the CARES Act for these folks in these situations. I know there's a lot of folks that are still unemployed and are struggling to make ends meet and pay rent or mortgages. But there are some landlords in Paramount that are still pushing through and sending out 3-day notices for evictions. And not only the landlords, but there's attorneys in the city of Paramount that are also enforcing this with the landlords. And it seems like either they're misinformed or there needs to be more information to these attorneys and landlords to cut down on the evictions during this pandemic season. But thank you very much, and thank you for the time. Appreciate it.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay, the next commenter is Gardeep Kaur regarding the budget.
Hello?
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Gardeep Kaur.
That's me.
Hello, I'm contacting you regarding your request for public comment for the Paramount City Council meeting. You're now being broadcast live to the City Council. Your public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and I will give you notice when you have 20 seconds left. Your time starts now.
I just wanted to reiterate from the previous meeting when the budget was decided, residents were on the line for 3 hours just to hear our city council ignore our comments and then not even open up for discussion the budget item and just pass it unanimously. It was a bit tone deaf, and that was on June 16th. 3 days after that, Andres Guardado was murdered by the sheriff in the city of Gardena, and yet we're choosing to give them a raise. Again, this story has repeated itself throughout the nation. This story could have happened in Paramount. And again, we do not support the higher budget allocated to the sheriff's contract. Now, it was said that the sheriff's contract rate is decided by the Board of Supervisors. We know that other communities are fighting harder. They are working with their corresponding supervisor to renegotiate contracts, and we ask that our city council fight as hard for us as other city councils fight for their communities. We ask that you work with Janice Hahn's office, you work with the Gateway City Council of Governments, and to figure out how you're going to lower the budget next year, because this cannot just keep rising and it cannot remain the same because you just gave them a raise. Secondly, this is the second meeting where we've spent 40 minutes talking about fireworks and street racing. At this point, it needs to become an agendized item so that people can comment on it, because right now it just seems like we're criminalizing everything away. quite frankly, felonies ruin people's lives, and our criminal justice system affects communities of color like Paramount disproportionately. So you are advocating for felonies in a community where we have undocumented residents. You are going to allow deportations to happen over fireworks and street racing. This connection needs to be made, and you need to see the consequences of what you're advocating for. And then lastly, this unity in the community. Have we reached out or issued a statement of support in favor of Black Lives Matter and the movement? Are we connecting with the organizers of that activist movement, or are we just coming up with our own movement? Because this is a very particular moment, and they have a very particular set of actions, and I really hope that we're collaborating with them and we're not just paying lip service to this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments.
Okay, the next caller will be Richard Griffin regarding a property sale on North Paramount Boulevard.
Boulevard, yes.
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Richard Griffin.
Great. You gonna buy something?
No, sir. I'm contacting you regarding your request for public comment for the Paramount City Council meeting. You're now being broadcast to the City Council live. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll give you 20 seconds when before your time's up. Your time starts now.
Okay. Well, good evening, Madam Mayor. Good evening, Madam. I got. Okay. Okay. Richard Griffin, 8519 Chester Street. Good evening, Madam Mayor, Madam Vice Mayor, Madam Council members, and Mr. City Manager John, and other staff members. I come before you because I wanted to say thank you for what you have done for myself. When you gave out the food a while back, I signed up for it, and thank you for being there. Every month getting Meals on Wheels meant a lot to me. I've been out of work, not so much out of work, other than all my customer base has been dissolved. I can't sell anything. There's nobody there. So that Meals on Wheels means something to me. And unless I say something to the city, you won't know that what the city has done for citizens, its elderly citizens. You wouldn't know that you're doing a good thing and you're doing a great thing. The city is very much on top of this stuff, regardless of what other people may think. The city is very on top of its citizens. I also have a question about the property on Paramount Boulevard between Madison and Jefferson. It's for sale. It's a desolate piece of land. It has nothing on it other than some park benches. I was just wondering if the city has been looking into wanting to purchase that for future, such as like they did in Rosewood, the Rosewood restaurant. They bought that, then they tore it down and built what they have. I was just wondering if the city is, looking at that as a future investment, or are they just going to let it just be purchased? The thing I wanted to know is the difference between being a spectator and a witness during these street races. I have my cell phone. I'm trying to capture what's happening. Am I now a liability for trying to involve and trying to get arrests made? Yes or no? Thank you very much for the city. I've lived here for 61 years, and thank you very much for having an open microphone like you've always had all the years I've been here.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay, the next speaker in line is Andrew Mondragon regarding the budget and defunding police in Paramount. 1 second.
very sorry. You have reached a number that is no longer...
Okay, I don't have another phone number for this person, so...
Do you want to check it one more time, Andrew, just to make sure you get misdialed?
Yeah, I might have misread one of the numbers here, so let me see if I can try a different version. Hopefully this one works. Nope, that seems to be the only number we have on file.
Okay.
Okay, the next speaker in line is Jaime Lopez regarding items from the last council meeting.
Hello?
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Jaime Lopez.
This is me.
Hi, I'm contacting you regarding your request for public comment for the Paramount City Council meeting. You're now being broadcast live to the City Council. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll give you notice when you have 20 seconds left. Your time starts now.
Thank you. Good evening, City Council and staff members. At the last meeting, Raquel de Casas asked how we're protecting Black residents. Ramiro Mejia Jr. called to say that he supports defunding the police, and yet there was hardly an effort to address both of these residents. Instead, a lot of time was spent talking about fireworks and street racing. And so I'd like to begin tonight by asking each of the council members and the city manager to state, for the sake of public record, whether you are in support of the Black Lives Matter movement, and can you tell your constituents what books that you've read that have influenced your views about the Black Lives Matter movement? Can you share that information with us? We have a council member getting an online master's degree at USC in public policy. We have a council member who has been a librarian for 30 years. So I would hope that we have become informed about this movement in the past and can express, or at the very least express, a commitment to doing so now, given your new leadership roles. As far as the budget is concerned, for now, as we continue to discuss the city's budgetary action items as a community, I'd like to ask City Council Member Guillen to state on the record today whether she would have approved the city budget approved at the last meeting. As a career police officer and as someone who continues to have ties with the police force, some of your residents would like to hear your stance on this budget. As far as felonies are concerned, as cities around the country dialogue about rethinking public safety, there was a discussion at the last meeting led by Council Member Guillen that sought to consider arresting Paramount residents with felony charges. I'd like to point out how destructive a felony can be to someone's life, which includes a lifetime of no longer being able to have access to public services, affordable housing, voting rights, etc. As the voices of the Black Lives Matter movement have been raised, should you choose or continue to pursue arrest with the eagerness that you've expressed thus far, you would be exposing yourself as being grossly out of sync with a larger progressive movement, perhaps the largest movement of its type in American history. You like to speak in defense of the community, and I'll remind you that these residents are also part of that community. As far as community resources are concerned, Mr. Moreno, when answering public comments about what community resources were being pursued at this time, you were quick to mention improving the housing element and the bike plan currently being developed. These two examples certainly don't exhaust city efforts to address community needs at this time, but these efforts mentioned were not only already underway, but in the case of the housing element, are actually mandated by the state as it relates to the city's general plan. Going forward, it is fair to question if Paramount is being
left.
It is fair to question whether Paramount is being proactive enough in seeking innovative ways to address community needs. I hope my questions can be answered clearly by each and every one of the council members and the city manager. I hope your comments are honest and thoughtful, as some of us will continue to listen closely to what you say and make every effort to push dialogue that takes better account of research, scholarship,
your
and the
time is up.
community itself.
Your time is up.
I want to thank you for your comments, and I'd also like to say that public comments are the time for the council members to go back and forth. It is public comment time. You will have your opportunity to do council member comments towards the end of the meeting if you would like to address anything. With that, we'll move on to the next speaker.
Okay, one moment, Madam Mayor. Okay, the next speaker will be Kirin Perez regarding budget.
Hello.
Good evening, this is the City of Paramount calling for Kirin Perez.
Hi. Yeah.
Hi, I'm contacting you regarding your request for public comment for the Paramount City Council meeting. You're now being broadcast live to the City Council. Your public comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll give you notice when you have 20 seconds left. Your time starts now.
My name is Karen Perez. I've been a resident in the city for 25 years. In the last city council meeting, the budget was passed without discussion. It is disappointing that you ignore your constituents and fail to address their concerns regarding the budget. It shows that LASD police officers and how they handle situations.
Ms. Perez, if I could just pause you for a second. You're breaking up a little bit. Can you please check your signal?
Oh, I'm sorry. Is this better? Hello?
A little bit better.
Okay. Sorry.
And we'll go ahead and restart the timer again.
Okay.
Okay, you can begin now.
My name is Karen. 25 years. In the last city council meeting, the constituents and failed to address the concerns regarding the budget. The sheriff's department is using.
Okay, Andrew, we're still not able to hear. If she's on her cell phone, maybe she could move to a landline and go outside. I'm getting every second or third word.
Yes, Ms. Perez, as the mayor just indicated, we are having trouble with your connectivity. Perhaps if you can try to relocate, we'll go ahead and give you a call back in a few minutes. Okay. Okay, Madam Mayor, I'll move on to the next speaker, and we'll give Ms. Perez a call back at the end. Okay, the next speaker will be Adriana Garcia regarding general comments.
Hello, this is Adriana.
Hi, Adriana. This is the City of Paramount. We're contacting you regarding your request for public comment for the Paramount City Council meeting. You're now being broadcast live to the City Council. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll give you notice when you have 20 seconds left. Your time starts now.
Hi, this is Adriana. I'm a Paramount community member, and I was recently notified by another community member that someone has proposed that anyone that likes fireworks are to be subject to be charged with a felony. And I just want to weigh in and say how much I oppose this, just because the implications of this in someone's record are extremely detrimental. And the fact that the majority of Paramount is a Latino-based community would entail that it would really just impact a lot of people in very negative ways. You know, a felony charge in someone's record can cause a lot of trouble and a lot of harm. And I just want to note that this is an extremely dramatic proposal, and I am opposed to it. That's all.
Thank you.
Okay, Madam Mayor, I'm going to circle back on a couple of public comments where we're not able to get a hold earlier. The first being Andrew Mandragon. We were able to obtain a different phone number, so we're going to give him another try.
Okay.
Hello?
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Andrew Mondragon.
Yes, this is he.
Hi, I'm contacting you regarding your request for public comment for the Paramount City Council meeting. You're now being broadcast live to the City Council. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll give you notice when you have 20 seconds left. Your time starts now.
Good evening. As a resident of the city of Paramount, I am insulted at the level of disconnect this council has shown to the people of the city. You have ignored any motions regarding the reallocation of funding away from the police department at a time where cities across the country are looking to reshape what public safety looks like. But rather, you indicate your hands are tied because the LA Board of Supervisors sets these requirements. This is a failure on your part. You have failed to listen to the citizens of your city. You have failed to create transparency for the community, all while a budget is passed, and most of the community didn't even know. So, we demand that this council negotiate with the LA Board of Supervisors to reduce this budget item like other cities have been fighting for throughout this country. We demand that there be more transparency for the community so that we are aware of the decisions being made. And I have a question. In the beginning of this meeting, there was a mention of unity community being formed to address the racial inequalities of our city. My question is, has this group even collaborated with the BLM group? Or is this some sort of lip service that is being made? I yield the rest of my time.
Thank you for your comment.
Okay, Madam Mayor, we're going to try our last commenter again, last commenter on the phone again, Kirin Perez. She was the person who had that bad connection, so we'll try it one more time.
Hello?
Good evening, Ms. Perez. This is City of Paramount again. Hi.
Is this better? Are you able to hear me?
We're still getting you broken up a little bit. Can you try again? We'll go ahead and start your time, and then see if we have any issues. We'll cut you off.
Okay, thank you.
You can start now.
Okay, my name is Karen Perez. I've been a resident in the city for 25 years. In the last city council meeting, the budget was passed without discussion. It is disappointing that you ignore your constituents and fail to address the concerns regarding the budget. The Sheriff's Department receives an increase, even though there are many issues with LASD, police officers, and how they conduct themselves in situations. And it does not provide a positive message of unity to the community, especially when young men are being put without consequence throughout many cities in LA and the country. With known issues with LASD, those killings could have very well happened in Paramount. I would like to know if the city has ever actually collaborated with Black Lives Matter or have created an actual plan to address and combat racial injustices. It does not seem like the city has ever had that as a priority, and that needs to change.
Okay, Madam Mayor, that was the end of that particular commenter.
And now, Madam Mayor, we'll turn it over to our City Clerk, Ms. Heidi Luce, who will read the one emailed comment that we received. Ms. Luce?
Thank you, Mr. Moreno. This comment is from Jose De Leon. Thinking ecologic. Exploiting fireworks on the 4th of July is a time-honored American tradition, beloved as turkey and pumpkin pie on Thanksgiving. Yet, our love for this joyful traditions should not obscure the reality that fireworks are dangerous beyond the obvious fire hazard they immediately represent. The fact that the regulation for handling and storing fireworks comes under the jurisdiction of the United States Environmental Protection Agency should be a permanent reminder to all responsible citizens and legislators that fireworks should be treated as hazardous chemicals. Long after the beautiful colorful flashes disappear in the sky, many harmful toxins in the smoke and toxic metals remain in our air to be breathed by our children and adults alike. More alarmingly, among the cocktail of metals and chemicals that remain in the air, some never go away. This troubling, scientifically attested fact is compounded here in Paramount, where metal forging companies pepper our sky with poisonous metals like chromium-6. The smoke of fireworks never really clears, and this is more bad news for the already suffering elderly and children of Paramount, who already find themselves wheezing and suffering from respiratory illnesses. Although for those of us who care for the ecological impact on our city, the noise and pollution from fireworks also, for those of us who care for the ecological impact on our city, the noise and pollution from fireworks cause great harm to birds, which also breathe the chemicals and whose hearing often suffers permanent damage, forcing them to flee our city. Banning all fireworks in Paramount would be the ultimately correct solution, but we are all aware that traditions die hard. Instead, Paramount should model other American cities that centralize the fireworks festivities under one officially sanctioned event sponsored by the city and prohibit the usage of outside the official event. This policy would give all Paramount residents the traditional celebrations to enjoy, greatly reduce the immediate threat of house fires, reduce the amount of toxins lingering in the already chromium-6 compromised Paramount air, and for those that care, keep the birds singing in our city. Thank you. That concludes the comments. Madam Mayor.
Thank you, Heidi.
Madam Mayor, I'm sorry, before you, I hate to interrupt you. We did receive one more public comment while Ms. Luce was reading that one. Would you like to take it now, or would you like to handle that at the end of the meeting?
Is that an email?
No, ma'am. It is a phone call.
No, let's go ahead and do it.
Okay, with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Villalpando.
Okay, the next commenter will be Alfredo Banuelos regarding general comments.
Hello?
Good evening. This is the City of Paramount calling for Alfredo Banuelos.
This is he.
Hi, I'm contacting you regarding your request for public comment for the Paramount City Council meeting. You're now being broadcast live to the City Council. Your comments will be limited to 3 minutes, and I'll give you notice when you have 20 seconds left. Your time starts now.
Okay, could you please not give me a notice of 20 seconds left? So I just wanted to make a general comment. These are some really crazy times, and once again, I'd like to reiterate the need for more leadership in the council when it comes to the relief efforts specifically for renters, but just for everyone, I guess, in all departments, and that includes municipal fines and, of course, defunding the police. I just heard that mentioned often, making sure that everything is in line, considering that a lot of people are struggling and in need. I heard previously Mr. Cerda call and denounce some of the actions that he's been aware of in the community taking place. Illegal evictions are on the rise and should be on the rise, should be expected. I also heard a conversation previously about felonizing victimless crimes such as illegal fireworks use. I'd like to say that I don't support that. That is something that should not be taking place, especially in this time when tensions are high between police and the readjustment of how we go about that situation, about those community relations needs to be addressed in a different way, in a totally opposite way, rather than criminalizing these type of actions. Over the holiday, my car was personally damaged by firework use, but in no way whatsoever would I want this person to take a felony charge just for that. My car was burnt. It was near also, it was very close to a tree that burnt, almost burnt down, completely lit on fire. Big shout out to the fire department that came and took care of it twice since it reignited. And I also recall previous conversation around the approval of the sale of fireworks in the city. I recall Councilmember Guillen speaking out about the possibility of these same fireworks were for the council to approve the sale of them in the city, these same fireworks being used on police. And luckily I haven't heard that. Well, actually, I think you did mention that. But my point is that it's a bit hypocritical to go ahead and criminalize further the use of the fireworks when the council went ahead and approved the sale of them. Of course, these are of a greater risk, but it's still hypocritical to begin with. So just to conclude my comments, I'd like to say, please, I beg the council to consider further relief efforts. And if there's anything for the renters, and if there's anything to criminalize, it's white collar crime. It's the
Mr. Benzuelos, your time is up. Mr. Benzuelos, your time is up.
Thank you very much for taking my call. Bye.
Okay, I'm assuming that concludes public comments, Mr. Marino?
Yes, ma'am, it does.
Okay, we'll move on to the consent calendar. I need a motion to approve, please.
So moved, almost.
This is Councilmember Cuero Stallings. Motion for the approval of the minutes for June 2nd and June 16th.
Okay, the item has been moved by Vice Mayor Olmos and seconded by Cuero Stallings. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Cuero Stallings?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Mayor Lemons?
Yes. Okay, we're going to move on to a report for the homeless effort.
Yes, Madam Mayor and Council. For the last 3 to 4 years, we've been dealing very, very closely with the homelessness issue here that we have here in town, and it's everywhere, obviously. This is primarily handled through our public safety department. A full-time civilian city staff person, who you will hear from in a second, has been assigned to coordinate all of the city's homelessness efforts. Stephen Comperlius is doing a great job of this and is now considered our homeless expert. As you'll see in his presentation, he attends extensive trainings. He interacts with several agencies to get assistance to our homeless population. He really gets to know our homeless people that are in town, so much so that he's on a first-name basis with some of the homeless individuals in town. I've personally seen him in action, and he uses a lot of compassion for the homeless, while at the same time making sure to uphold the quality of life for the overall community, which can be at times a difficult challenge, as there are differing viewpoints on how to handle the homeless. But given his years of experience working in the recreation department and handling issues with Little League parents, Steve has been able to navigate his way through the process and has helped the city find a lot of success with helping our homeless population in town. So with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Stephen Comperlius, who will handle this item. Steve?
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council members. During this presentation, I will be reviewing our homeless efforts over the last 18 months. We have worked diligently to connect our homeless neighbors with the necessary service providers so that they can get assistance they need. In an effort to stay current in a very fluid environment, I have attended the following trainings so I can keep up with best practices. Los Angeles Sheriff Department Homeless Outreach Service Team put on a homeless protocol training. Gateway COG conducted a mental health first aid training. I regularly attend the LCA 3 City Homeless Liaison Coalition and Homelessness Technical Advisory Committee, which allows me to connect with other local city staff and service providers to discuss trends and resources. During the creation of our homeless plan, community members expressed an interest in continuing the discussion on homelessness in Paramount. From that, we created Helping Hands of Paramount, a quarterly meeting for us to update community stakeholders on the current status of homelessness in Paramount, services we can provide via our service provider partners, and services we have been able to provide via grants. We also speak about homelessness at neighborhood watch meetings, how residents can utilize the LA Hop portal to notify service providers of someone who is experiencing homelessness. Hopix has been present at city special events and the community center during senior programming. Service providers such as Hopix, which stands for Homeless Outreach Program Integrated Care System, which serves as our primary service provider, as well as other SPA 6 cities, is pictured here on this slide, providing outreach to an individual experiencing homelessness. In addition to Hopix, we also partnered with Kingdom Causes of Bellflower and Los Angeles Homeless Service Authority to provide the necessary services to those experiencing homelessness in Paramount. Service providers have provided our homeless neighbors with shelter placement, motel stays, DMV vouchers for free identification cards, and have provided transportation to medical appointments. In an effort to maintain a clean city, we have worked with Caltrans, Los Angeles County Department of Public Works, Union Pacific Railroad, Southern California Edison, Metro, and LADWP on encampment cleanups within their right-of-ways that run through our city. Before any cleanups take place, we visit each location multiple times with service providers to offer outreach and to notify them of the upcoming cleanups that is going to occur. Every government agency and utilities listed on this slide all have their own process when it comes to cleanups, but all have been responsive to our request and have become a valued partner in keeping our city clean. In September 2018, the Los Angeles County Board of Supervisors approved $9 million in Measure H funding for the Homeless Initiative and United Way Home for Good Founders Collaborative to issue a request for proposals for the cities to implement their homelessness plans. Because Paramount was one of 40 cities in Los Angeles County to submit a city homeless plan, we were eligible to submit a grant application. We submitted 3 grant applications and were awarded $154,000 to implement the funding of 2 shelter beds at the Bell Shelter, purchase of a shelter unit for our property storage program, and a rental assistance program. Since the beginning of our rental assistance program, which we have partnered with Kingdom Causes because of their experience with administering similar programs with other local cities, 48 Paramount household applications have been assessed, and 30 Paramount households have received funding up to $2,000. We utilized $73,402 during this past fiscal year and have $65,731 remaining for this current fiscal year. Hopix, Kingdom Causes, and LASA have really worked hard on our behalf to provide shelter placement for those experiencing homelessness. 15 Paramount homeless neighbors, consisting of 6 adult females and 9 adult males, have been placed in shelters, 3 in the last 6 weeks. Those who accept shelter placement will be connected with case management, 3 meals a day, access to medical attention if necessary, and many other services will be available to them. We have engaged and offered services to 88 unique homeless neighbors, and 3 individuals have been placed in motels via Project Room Key since April. Our Safe Storage program provides safekeeping of homeless neighbors' personal property for up to 90 days. In the event that a client requires additional storage time after the initial 90 days, staff will confirm the reason for the extended storage time, and pending availability, we will re-register the client for an additional 90 days. Up to date, we have stored the property of 38 Paramount homeless neighbors. It is recommended that the City Council receive and file the review of our homeless efforts, and I'll be happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the next oral report, which is an update on the business recovery efforts.
Yes, Madam Mayor. Over the last couple of months, we've been informing you about our efforts to help our local businesses recover from the impact that the coronavirus has had on our local economy. As you may recall from past presentations, we created a business recovery committee and came up with a number of action items. This next presentation will update you a little further on our progress, and with that, I'll turn it over to our Assistant City Manager, Mr. Andrew Villalpando, who will update you on our Paramount business recovery efforts. Andrew?
Thank you, Mr. City Manager. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the City Council. I'm really excited to give you this presentation this evening. It's really going to showcase all of the achievements and progress we've made in only a very short time. So I'll go and just jump right into it. At its meeting on May 19th, the City Council received a presentation on our efforts to assist our local economy recover following the shutdown caused by COVID-19. This evening, I'll provide a brief oral report on our progress in our overall business recovery efforts. So just as I mentioned, in a short period of time, actually just a little over 6 weeks ago, so right around mid-May, we assembled a Paramount Business Recovery Committee tasked with developing a plan to help local businesses recover. The committee is comprised of representatives from the Chamber of Commerce, Salico, which you just heard a presentation a little bit earlier this evening, the Small Business Development Center, which is a real key partner in this and our efforts, and we are vouching in the next months and coming time to really pay more attention and put more effort in promoting their services. As well as, our local businesses, which represent really who we're aiming here to assist. Representatives from our local businesses include Casa Camino, Northgate Gonzalez Markets, and Domino's Pizza. The committee has met 3 times over the last 6 weeks and developed a business recovery plan that serves as a roadmap to guide our recovery efforts. In your council agenda packets, you'll see you should have a copy of this business recovery plan. It really focuses on 3 types of assistance that we set out early on to provide, which are in-kind, advisory, and financial assistance. So the committee has met, as I mentioned, 3 times to really talk about these different types of assistance. So the next few slides, I'm going to just gloss over because there's a lot going on here, but that's a good thing. You'll see, what we've done is we broke it up into columns, and these are our action items that are included within our business recovery plan. It's a comprehensive, ambitious list of action items that are organized by columns. So as I mentioned, we offer the 3 types of assistance, the financial, advising, and in-kind, which are noted on the far left column. And then when we came up with this plan, it was staff's and the committee's intention that we make this not only shelf-ready, a living document, but something that actually has teeth, something that we can look back and say, these are actual deliverables, these are tangible items. How can we go about assisting our business community in achieving a successful recovery? So in addition to creating these action items or deliverables, we also assigned the lead agency committee member, so to speak, of who would be in charge of it, of taking on those action items. And believe it or not, as we go through these next few slides, you'll see a lot of completed items on here. At one point, these all had target dates on them, so it's a feather on the committee's hat, and all the hard work that staff has put in over the last 6 weeks to see the achievements that we've made. And of course, we're not done yet, but it's certainly something we want to celebrate. So as you see here, there are a couple of keystone projects. We'll go through. They're broken down by our immediate action items on this page, as well as the following page. You'll see things like creating calendars for virtual trainings for business owners, a discussion on outdoor dining ideas and efforts, which is one of the keystone programs I'll dive into in a little bit. Creating weekly calendars and updating our business web pages to provide businesses with information and resources. Encouraging membership to the chamber. Working with businesses to have real plans on the types of consistent and engaging signage they can use in a post-COVID world. Moving on to the next page, which is still our list of immediate, I'm sorry, bear with me for a second. I'm gonna go back, which is still on a list of our immediate categories. Let me see if here you'll see that we've updated, we worked with the county supervisor, Janice Hahn, on encouraging the reopening of certain businesses to expedite that. creating a forum to share and provide information and resources, and as I mentioned, creating a business webpage as well. Just briefly, I'll touch on our intermediate action items, which had a target date of just a little bit beyond urgent. Exploring a co-op advertising fund that could possibly be established where businesses can contribute some funding into a shared account to go toward promoting all of those co-op businesses. So that's something that we're still working on a target date, but the Chamber has expressed an interest in taking the lead on that. We've worked with Salico and their grant programs, open office hours for local businesses to take advantage of the services provided by the Small Business Development Center, creating guidelines for outdoor dining options, which, as I mentioned, I'll go into in a moment. And of course, this is an update here. The grants such as CDBG funding for assistance to small businesses. We're happy to report that we are on the very tail end of that project, and we should have something for businesses to take advantage of in the next few days. And lastly, you could take a look at our long-term action items here. Exploring a Paramount page for a potential advertisement of local businesses. That's complete. Exploring shuttle services that would give residents access to visit their favorite businesses. This is something we'll be working on over the next few weeks, as you see a target date there of the end of the month. And working on the possibility of putting on a special event with the Chamber as sort of a welcome back to all customers. So as I mentioned, this is something we really wanted to highlight. This was one of our keystone projects as part of our immediate action plans, was to basically launch what we're calling Paramount Alfresco. This is something that we're really excited about. It's a temporary outdoor dining program that was approved in June by the City Council. As local restaurant owners rethink their spaces to offer a different type of food service model, we wanted to figure out a way to enable and facilitate these creative ideas. So in doing that, we launched Paramount Alfresco. You'll see here, this is our logo, that black and white logo. We're actually creating stickers that participating restaurants can stick proudly onto their windows and advertise that they're taking part in this program. That middle picture there is actually Casa Adelita. And this is a really good example of what city staff did to enable this sort of creative thinking. This is right here is an example of rethinking a space on private property. So what Casa Adelita did here in this picture is they basically expanded out their dining into their parking lot. Just to give you an idea of what our involvement was in that and why this is kind of even, new frontiers for city staff is, we had not only our planning department approve the site plan and make sure that they were, still following in compliance with ADA requirements, but also we engaged our public safety team who assessed the safety of cars pulling in and out, both in the parking lot and the driveway. On the far right, you'll see a picture. That's actually Casa Gamino. So that's looking northbound toward Alondra Boulevard, just parallel to Indiana. And this is a good example of rethinking a space on our public right-of-way. So they actually put their dining spot on the city sidewalk. And to give you an idea of what we did there is we worked with our public safety staff to assess the traffic safety, as well as our Public Works Department to check for any hazards on the sidewalk that might impede the diner's experience. And of course, final review by planning. So since then, we've added Gus's Deli to the list of Alfresco, El Tapatio restaurant, and we're consistently every day getting more and more interest and fielding more calls for additional restaurants to take part in this great program. So we're excited for the possibilities. This is a very publicly visible dining concept, and we're excited to offer it. The last thing I'll say about this is we are working with our partners in Trepepe Smith, who have done communications work with us in the past. We want to get them. They'll be out on this Friday working with a few of these restaurants to put together a professionally produced video to sort of promote and advertise all of these great outdoor dining options that will hopefully serve two purposes. One, get patrons and customers excited about it, but also get restaurants and entrepreneurs excited about the idea itself. And the last thing we'll talk about is our business recovery resources webpage. This is also something we're very proud of, where I'll bring up Andres Gonzalez. He's from our Community Services and Recreation Department. Many of you know him. He's been a fantastic resource on this project. He's taken the role sort of as business liaison or sort of a business concierge for our local businesses during our recovery efforts. This was an important role that we presented to you when we first gave you our ideas for business recovery, because we wanted to make sure that our businesses were being handled with the first-rate service that we provide. So I'm going to turn it over to Andres, and he's going to give you a quick tour of our business resources webpage.
Thank you, Andrew. Good evening, Madam Mayor and members of the council. The city understands the important role businesses play in the local economy. So as one of our business recovery efforts, we revamped the existing business page. This page can be found at paramountcity.com/business resources. The business resources page provides information, tools, and organizations to assist businesses. So with that, I will now walk you through the business resources page. To begin, we have our latest news section, where we currently have our Paramount Alfresco program with information on the program, and as Andrew kind of explained to you guys how we started that, along with a printer-friendly application, easy for businesses to go ahead, download, fill out the application, and easily submit via email or come on into City Hall and submit the application. Next, we have information on the wastewater fee rebate for businesses that have been affected by COVID. Then we have what businesses are currently allowed to open in LA County. There's a direct link that will go ahead and take you to the LA County website, and with information on businesses that are able to open. We all know that is constantly changing, so we're trying our best to go ahead and update our business page with that information. And lastly, on that latest news page, section, we have a toolkit for dine-in restaurant. Again, with the recent closures of dining in, this is frequently changing. So this still applies for restaurants, even with the Alfresco program, and easy PDF that they can go ahead and download and use and implement during this COVID. The next section is resources. First, we have building and construction permit information on who to contact and how to obtain the different types of permits and their direct links to that designated department. Then we have business licensing, which provides information on how to obtain a business license, which includes requirements and applications. Those are easy to download and, again, to print and submit to the designated department. Then we have information on the Chamber of Commerce, such as their vision and mission, what their membership entails, and, again, a direct link for some business to apply and obtain a membership, as well as their chamber directory with a list of businesses, numbers, and emails that not only businesses can access, but as well as residents. Next, we have a grant subsection, is where we'll post any business-related grants. We currently have the LA Regional COVID Fund grant, but as Andrew mentioned, we will be providing a grant that is provided by the city, and that will be posted within the next few days. Next, we have the Long Beach Small Business Development Center, also known as SBDC, which is an organization that provides help to small businesses. They continue to work virtually and are ready to help businesses free of charge. There's a direct link, and that will take them to their updated webinar list. So again, businesses can go ahead, visit our webpage, scroll down to the SBDC, click on the link, and it'll take them directly to where their webinars are listed. Right below that, we have the municipal codes, which provides information on what a municipal code is and a direct link to the complete list of the city codes. Last but not least, under resources, we have the South Los Angeles County Workforce Development Board, also known as CELICO. There's brief information on the nonprofit organization that is not only for businesses, but for job seekers too. They too are currently hosting webinars on different subjects and attaches their July calendar for webinars. The next section is Shop Local, which will take you direct links to our Facebook Shop Local page and our Instagram Shop Local page. Again, right on the page, there will be a post on culmination of information such as upcoming webinars, new public health guidelines, local deals, and much more. Then we have deals and coupons, where in-town businesses would be able to share their deals with the city, essentially providing a virtual bulletin board, and we'll be able to post them directly on our business page for residents and the community to visit and either download or print to show wherever they are shopping. The last subsection is events, where eventually we'd promote grand openings, COVID-related events, or virtual business-related town halls. And that concludes my presentation on business resources page, and again, which can be found at paramountcity.com/business resources. Thank you, and I'll go ahead and hand it back to Andrew.
Yeah, so Madam Mayor and members of City Council, that concludes our update on our business recovery efforts, and we'd be happy to answer any questions you might have.
Thank you, Andrew. Do you guys have questions?
Madam Mayor, I have one. This is almost speaking.
Kadoke.
Yes. Hey, Andrew, really quickly, for restaurants that basically maybe don't look at websites or are not part of the chamber, how are we communicating or reaching out to them, providing them this opportunity?
Actually, that's a really good question, Madam Vice Mayor. We actually did boots on the ground type of outreach. We went to a lot of businesses, a lot of outreach. That's almost the primary reason why we wanted to have Andres on board in this effort too, is so we can send staff out and communicate. So I'm looking over to Andres, and if he had to give me a quick estimate of how many restaurants and businesses he might have visited over the last couple of weeks, he would say about 20. So we're still ongoing, and it's definitely something that we're aggressive about. So we do definitely recognize that not everyone is technology friendly. So we're doing our best to get out in person to do that.
Perfect. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, I don't want to come down on the negative side things, Andrew, but I do have a question. I'm concerned a little bit about the alfresco dining setup. I was a little surprised, and I haven't left my house much, so I haven't seen the setup of some of these restaurants, but like when you showed Casa Camino out on the sidewalk, right on, like a major boulevard, I was wondering, what about the liability issue there? I can't help but think back to the Pharaoh's Ice Cream there in Anaheim, Buena Park, whichever one it was located in, where somebody coming down the street, plowed into the residents standing in front of the restaurant, and here we have them eating on the sidewalk. It doesn't seem safe to me.
Well, Madam Mayor, that's part of our site plan review process. Part of that, a very intensive part of approval process is making sure that our public safety director and our public works director go out and assess that risk. I can give you an example of specifically that location that you referenced. We had our public safety director go out. She and her staff took a look at that intersection. They took a look at how the traffic flow goes both in and out of Alondra onto Indiana. And they determined that there was enough space on the public right-of-way between the diners and the actual street that should be considered safe. From the liability perspective of the city and the right-of-way on the sidewalk, that's where our public works director would go out and take a look to see if there's any tripping hazards or if there's roots coming up through the sidewalk, or, and then our planning folks would get involved if there's any hazards from the private property end coming into the public right-of-way. So it's kind of a combination of a whole, cadre of administrative, using an administrative approach, a whole cadre of people coming out and trying to do an assessment.
And while I appreciate that and all the hard work that went into it, I just can't help but see how close they are to a main boulevard and something, as simple as one car getting bumped and sending them careening into that sidewalk or some racing down the street. And I would just wonder if we haven't looked at some kind of bollards, temporary ones, if we're going to allow them, that close on a main street. I'm even a little concerned. I kind of went along when you said the ones in the parking lot, that maybe you address the egresses and where they could come in and go out slowly. But you can't really control somebody, coming down a main boulevard. We'll have to agree to disagree, but I would like you to further myself look into maybe some kind of bollard protection, something temporary that could be put up. It's just something that happens. That's why, the restaurants, I think, the ones I can think of are they're in Long Beach. They all have iron gates around them. At least that's something. And this is just completely open. So I just want my concerns on the record, and I would like to see more protections, especially if it's on a boulevard like that.
Sure, those are definitely some valid concerns. I wanted to add also that we do, as part of the assessment and approval process, we do require that businesses retain liability insurance for at least $1 million. And yeah, to your point about other communities like Long Beach, I have seen those as well, and they do offer some barriers. They actually go a couple steps further, and actually allow their creative spaces. They actually allow parklets onto the street, and that's where you'll see a lot of those barriers. But you're certainly right. We will definitely take a look into additional measures to see how we can help our businesses increase their protective measures and, of course, reduce liability for the city.
Yeah, that would be my only concern. Just if there's some kind of barrier that could be put up that offers some level of protection. I appreciate the additional liability, but no amount of liability is going to bring somebody back. Just everything that we can do while we're facing this pandemic, and we need to explore new avenues. I understand that, to help keep our businesses going. But if there is a safety measure there that we can take, I would certainly hope we would look into it. Okay, so with that, we will move on to new business, public hearing ordinance 1131. And so we'll have a staff report first.
Yes, Madam Mayor, for decades, the city has had an Art in Public Places program. This program primarily included paintings and sculptures that were bought by the city and displayed for the public to enjoy on public property, like at our parks, as well as on private property that was accessible and considered viewable to the public. Then around the middle of last year, the City Council directed us to come up with an ordinance that addresses art, particularly with regard to mural. We reported back to you on our progress in late 2019, and then we reviewed a proposed ordinance with the Planning Commission on 2 different occasions. We're now coming back to you with a formal ordinance for your review and first reading. And the ordinance itself not only covers murals, as you're about to hear, but it also covers sculptures and art performances as well. And when we're referring to art in this ordinance, I want you to think of it as art that would be displayed or performed on private property that is, once again, viewable or accessible to the public. So with that, I'll turn it over to our planning director, Mr. John Carver, who will handle the item. John?
Thank you, John, Madam Mayor, and council members. Yes. So this item is a request to adopt a zoning ordinance text amendment that would establish. Sorry, I'm having some trouble with the. Okay, thank you. Okay, so this item is a zoning ordinance text amendment establishing regulations for art in public places that would be located on privately owned land. The Planning Commission has reviewed this item twice and at its June meeting recommended approval of the ordinance to the City Council. Move the next slide. Last year, the council directed staff to research public art murals, and a few months later, the council reviewed a preliminary proposal for public art on private property. Next slide. The purpose of the ordinance is to maintain Paramount's art and culture for generations, to recognize the importance of the arts, to make a lasting contribution to the intellectual, emotional, and creative life of the community, to create a more desirable community to live, work, and play in, and to ensure that art is freely accessible to the public on private property. Next slide. Art in public places in Paramount goes back to the mid-1980s and includes things such as sculptures, fountains, and carvings. Art would be installed on private property, generally associated with a new development. And as John mentioned, art was also installed on public property and included things such as fountains and sculptures. Next slide. Here's a newspaper clipping from one of Paramount's first pieces of public art in 1987. Art pieces were generally paid for by developers on private property, and it was often done in conjunction with a new development. Next slide. So a fee for art was approved in 1993 by the City Council. The fee is collected when a building permit is issued for a project that has a value over $100,000 or for housing projects that contain more than 4 units. The fee is calculated at 1% of the project valuation. Next slide. Proposed regulations include that artwork would need to be displayed in an area that is open and accessible to the public for at least 10 hours a day. Artwork would need to tie into the surrounding area by way of scale, material, form, and content. Artwork would need to be designed, constructed, or guided by a person experienced in the production of art. Next slide. Goals of the ordinance are to avoid being too restrictive, to be inclusive, to promote community participation, and to welcome community-based art. Next slide. The proposed ordinance makes a distinction between permanent artwork, temporary artwork, and placemaking artwork. The example in this picture is from a placemaking performance in the city's event, A Night Under the Hay Tree, which was held last year. Permanent pieces of art would be reviewed and approved by the Development Review Board. Next slide. We're also recommending that a program be developed that will promote murals. Next slide. Here are some examples of murals that have been permitted in other cities. And you can see up on the left-hand side the city of Southgate. And the one in the bottom middle is actually in North Long Beach on Paramount Boulevard. You may have seen that one before. And this is an example of a mural program in Pacoima. And next slide. The types of things that we don't want to see are things that would express bad taste, obscenity, hate speech, or profanity. Next slide. Other things that we would not want to see would be things that are mass-produced and art that promotes a business or a service. And with that, we're recommending that the council introduce Ordinance 1131, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Madam Mayor, we concluded the report.
Oh, I'm sorry. I've been talking for 3 minutes. I apologize. I was on mute there. So, does anyone have any questions?
Mayor Lemons, I do. I'm sorry. Really quickly. When it comes to the application process, it doesn't state anywhere, the artist doesn't have to be from the city of Paramount, correct?
No, they do not.
And is there anything about colors, a limit of colors and size? Will that be on the application as well?
We're going to leave the application more open for the artist to present a proposal that we would take to the Development Review Board for their review.
Okay. Thank you, John.
This is Claire Stallings. I have a question.
Yes.
John, is there a special area of the city that the artists would be working on? I mean, special buildings, walls?
Yes. The obvious locations would be on Paramount Boulevard and Alondra in our central business district. If we're looking at murals, that's kind of the obvious location for placemaking art events also in the downtown. So those would be the areas, but it wouldn't be limited to those areas too. We have a lot of vacant buildings, sides on Garfield Avenue in the industrial area, so those areas might be appropriate for a mural also, or a piece of public art.
Thank you.
This is Councilmember Aguayo. I'm real big on the arts, and I know we're kind of talking about murals. I guess it goes back to, I remember going to Progress Park when, they unveiled these sculptures that are around town now, and I still think they're really cool. But there was something in there that talked about like temporary artistic events, and I'm thinking, like what, are we talking like maybe like art walks, maybe some local live musicians, I don't know, theater groups, like what's the thought on that?
Yes, so it would include all those things. So it could be maybe in the downtown, in the town center, east or west, where you would have a one-day pop-up art event where we might be doing chalk demonstrations on the sidewalk or in the parking lot. It could be performances, a theatrical performance, or it could be a musical performance. So it would include all of those items.
Thank you.
So John Carver, this is Councilmember Gann. I just have one question, and my phone was cutting out. I'm using my phone for this meeting. I don't know if, I thought I heard you say something about if a private property wants to put a mural on their building, how will that be determined what kind of mural they can put up there? I mean, is it going to be strictly through the commission who makes a decision whether or not it's appropriate?
Right. So it would be through the guidance of right. So it would be through the guidance of the Development Review Board. there's a whole host of different types of murals that could be put up. We've got some good language in there about it being related to the surrounding neighborhood, the color, the form. And it would also be guided by not necessarily an established artist, but it could be an artist who is being guided by somebody who's an established artist, who's directing them on what type of proposal to present to us.
I guess my concern is art to many people comes in different forms and different messages and different images, and I just want to make sure that it's not the same people that view art one way, because somebody might have something ethnic, they might have something from their heritage, something that is very important to them. And I want to make sure we have a committee that can recognize all art and just not art of a handful of people.
Yes, we definitely agree with you. And we think that the ordinance provides sufficient direction that it would allow for all types of different expressions of art.
Okay, thank you.
The Development Review Board, John, is made up of the planning commissioners, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Any other questions?
I guess then Mayor, since you mentioned that, I guess I'd want to know if it came down to an art approval that we could extend a different committee as well, or maybe just some other insight, not just the commissioners on the Development Review Board, simply for the reasons that I stated.
Yeah, I know there's an appeals process, right, John? If the artist if by chance they were to get denied, then the artist come to the city council. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah. And I think it's a good rule of thumb to start with people who been involved in approving these types of things for the city. I think it's pretty multicultural and a pretty good diversity of age and backgrounds. And if we see that we have a problem, we can always bring it back and alter the ordinance. With that said, it is a public hearing. Is there anyone who wishes to speak in favor of this item?
We have received no comments in favor, Madam Mayor.
Is there anyone wishing to speak in opposition?
Again, no comments in opposition, Madam Mayor.
At this time, we'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved, Almost.
Second, Aguayo.
Okay, it's been moved by Almost and seconded by Aguayo to close the public hearing. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Quer Stallings?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Mayor Lemons?
Yes. And now we'll entertain the motion itself.
This is Councilmember Aguayo. I make a motion to move the item at hand.
This is Quer Stallings. I second.
Okay, it's been moved by Aguayo, Councilmember Aguayo, seconded by Councilmember Quer Stallings to read by title only, waive further reading, introduce ordinance number 1131, and place it on the next regular agenda for adoption. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Quer Stallings?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Mayor Lemons?
Yes. Okay, with that, we'll move on to item 8, a public hearing on assessment charges for delinquent.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Each year we send to the County Property Tax Assessor's Office a list of the delinquent refuse accounts from the previous year. Trash service is considered an essential service, and it's essential to maintain the public health and safety of our community. So if someone doesn't pay for this service, the trash company is still mandated to continue picking up that person's trash. And there continues to be an ongoing cost for this type of service. This item is an attempt to cover this cost. And with that, I'll turn it over to our Public Works Director, Ms. Adriana Figueroa, to explain this year's property lien list. Ms. Figueroa?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, the Paramount Municipal Code, Section 33-21, requires the city to assist CalMed, who is our trash hauler, with the collection of delinquent residential invoices. We have placed unpaid trash collection bills as assessment against properties for over 20 years, as John has previously indicated. Properties are assessed only after CalMet representatives have made all reasonable attempts to collect those delinquent accounts. In addition to sending the normal quarterly bills and past due notices listing any unpaid amounts, CalMet notified the affected property owners of those amounts by letter on April 29th and May 20th of this year. Also, on June 12th, the city re-notified the affected property owners that any unpaid amounts would be placed as assessments against their property and that the city council would hold a public hearing on July 7th. Therefore, by the time these unpaid bills are presented here tonight, the property owner has already received 6 to 8 notices of the delinquent amounts. The city occasionally receives calls from property owners who are concerned about the assessment. Some property owners claim that their property was unoccupied during the delinquent billing period or that they did not own the property during that period in question. So when that happens, the city investigates these claims further and informs CalMet of the need to adjust these accounts whenever it is appropriate. The list of delinquent accounts and assessments as of June 23rd is attached to the report. For calendar year 2019, there are approximately 280 delinquent accounts, representing about $80,000. CalMet will continue to take payments on all of these delinquent accounts through the end of July, and only those still outstanding will be sent to the county for the assessment. With that, it is recommended that the City Council authorize the City Manager to submit the calendar year 2019 delinquent refuse collection charge list to the Los Angeles County Auditor Controller. And that concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions the Council may have.
Thank you, Adriana. Are there questions? Okay, this is a public hearing, and I want to know if we have any testimony in favor of this item.
There has been no testimony regarding this item, ma'am.
Any in opposition?
No, none in opposition either.
Thank you. May I have a motion to close the public hearing?
This is Cora Stallings. To close the...
May I have a second?
This is Councilmember Aguayo. I'll second it.
Okay, it's been moved by Claire Stallings and seconded by Councilmember Aguayo that we close the public hearing. May I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Claire Stallings?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Mayor Lemons?
Yes. And now we'll entertain the motion.
So moved, almost.
Second, Claire.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor, almost seconded by Claire Stallings, that we authorize the city manager to submit the calendar year 2019 delinquent refuse collection charge list to the Los Angeles County Audit Controller. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Claire Stallings?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Mayor Lemons?
Yes. Okay, with that, we're going to move on to item 9, the award of contract for construction of arterial street surfacing.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. Over the last number of weeks, we've been repaving some of our smaller residential streets, and residents seem to be very, very happy with the results of having their streets paved. So this next item involves an award of contract for repaving some of our major boulevards around town. And with that, I'll turn it over once again to our Public Works Director, Ms. Adriana Figueroa, who will tell us the cost and which streets are included in this year's repaving project. Adriana?
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, as indicated, this item before you is the award of contract for our arterial street resurfacing project, number 9030. So I'll go to the next slide. I don't think my remote controller is working. Okay. Bids for this project were open and examined on June 9th, with the apparent low bid submitted by Pulp Inc. in the amount of $1,512,338. Pulp Inc., it used to be Excel Paving. They changed their name about a year or so ago. This is slightly below the budgeted construction amount for this project, which was estimated at $1.59 million. As is the case with our paving project citywide, we'll be using specialized transportation funding for this project. Next slide. So the streets that are scheduled to be paved are Alondra, a section of Alondra from Hansacker going westbound to the city limits, and Downey Avenue from south of Alondra all the way to the southbound city limits. You can see that on your screen on the right-hand side. Next slide. We also have included in this particular project some spot paving on sections of Rosecrans and Somerset. Both streets require paving, again, only in some sections, not the entire segment, and so we will be doing that with this project. Again, that would be Rosecrans Avenue and Somerset Boulevard. And with that, it is recommended that the City Council approve the plans and specs, award the contract for construction of the arterial street resurfacing improvements to Pulp Inc. in the amount of $1,512,338, and authorize the mayor to execute the agreement. That concludes my report, and I'll be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you, Adrienne. Are there questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Clara Stallings. I move the item for approval.
Thank you. May I have a second? Do I still have audio? Do I have a second?
This is Councilmember Aguayo. I'll second the motion.
Okay. So it's been moved by Cuellar Stallings and seconded by Aguayo to award construction of the arterial resurfacing improvements project for fiscal year 2020, city project number 30. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Aguayo?
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen?
Yes.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos?
Yes.
Mayor Lemons?
Yes. Next item is the authorization to execute the exchange agreement and assignment of federal surface transportation funds.
Yes, Madam Mayor, sticking with street work and transportation, this next item is regarding funding for street projects. Over the years, we've accumulated federal funds mostly for street repair work, but because these funds come from the federal government, they're very restricted and come with a lot of strings attached. However, there is a solution to this, and it's called a funding exchange. It allows us to exchange these very restrictive federal funds with less restrictive and more advantageous local funding. All of this is allowed through Metro, who is the administrator of these funds here in LA County. And to give you more about this, once again, is our Public Works Director, Miss Adriana Figueroa. Adriana.
Thank you, John. Yes, it's me again. Madam Mayor, members of the council, as John indicated, the Surface Transportation Program Local, which is also known as STPL, funds are federal funds allocated annually to local agencies based on population, so it's a per capita type allocation. Over the last 10 years, the city has been allocated an average of about $161,457 per year. And that program is administered by Metro, but is subject to Caltrans oversight and federal requirements. These requirements, including reporting requirements, are often cumbersome and expensive. STPL funds require a local match of 11.88%, which in our case amounts to about $89,342. We contacted Metro to discuss a funding exchange for STPL, as this is a common practice among agencies. These funding exchanges allow for a 5-year period to program and expend the funds, and allows local agencies the flexibility of having the projects being subject to state funding requirements rather than federal requirements. We have $752,041 of STPL funds that are eligible for this funding exchange agreement. Under this agreement, the city will pay Metro a 2% processing fee. This equals to $15,041, and will be deducted from the total STPL fund amount. By doing this, the previous local matching requirement of $89,000 would no longer be necessary. These exchange funds are already included as part of our arterial streets project, again, CIP number 9030, which you just approved in the last item, for the resurfacing of Alondra Boulevard from Hansacker Avenue to the city limits, Downey Avenue from Alondra to the south city limits, and the rehabilitation of various portions of Somerset Boulevard and Rosecrans Avenue, again from city limits to city limits. With that, it is recommended that the City Council authorize the mayor or her designee to execute the exchange agreement in assignment of federal STPL funds in the amount of $752,041 with Metro. And that concludes my report, but I'll be happy to answer any questions the council may have.
Thank you again. Are there questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, almost.
Second, Quer Stallings.
Okay, it's been moved by Vice Mayor Olmos, seconded by Councilmember Cuellar Stallings, that we authorize execute the exchange and local assignment of federal surface transportation program local funds with the Los Angeles County Metropolitan Authority. It's about $752,041. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Quer Stallings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. Okay, we'll move on to Resolution 20024.
Yes, Madam Mayor, this last item is going to be a tag team presentation. I mentioned to you at the time of the budget approval last month that this year's budget preparation was unprecedented for a number of reasons that surrounded by one source, and that was the COVID-19 pandemic. We did catch a couple of budget adjustments that need to be made. So in the spirit of transparency, we're bringing this before you to inform you and seek your approval. With your approval, this will allow us to make corrections and also allow the auditors to properly reconcile our books at the end of the year. So with that, I'll turn it over to first Adriana Figueroa, once again our Public Works Director, and then she'll turn it over to our Public Safety Director, Adriana Lopez, to detail for you these budget adjustments. So go ahead, Adriana.
Thank you, John. Madam Mayor, members of the City Council, during the beginning of the COVID-19 pandemic, when the safer at home restrictions were put in place, we placed our neighborhood streets pavement project on hold in order to minimize parking disruptions. With a majority of residents suddenly at home, we felt that the inconvenience that come from a street pavement project would be unnecessary during an already stressful time. And as we were preparing our fiscal year 21 CIP budget, we moved all of our projected expenditures for this project into the fiscal year 21 proposed budget. In May, after several discussions with our contractor, All American Asphalt, we determined that there were multiple ways to alleviate the inconvenience and still move forward with the project. And we made those accommodations, and the project then began. However, all funding allocations for the project had been carried forward into fiscal year 21, which was the budget that was adopted at the June 16 meeting. Since the budget allocation for fiscal year 20 does not currently include funding that was originally scheduled for that fiscal year for construction work that has been completed, we need to modify the appropriations to move a total of $852,000 for street improvements and a total of $120,000 for construction observation from fiscal year 21 back into fiscal year 20. These amounts will cover the improvements already completed through the end of June. So with that, I will now turn it over to Adriana Lopez, our Public Safety Director, who will go into the second part of this item.
Hello? Okay. I'll start all over by saying good evening, Mayor and council members. This is also part of resolution number 20024. As you heard earlier today with Steve's presentation, the city applied and was awarded a grant for our homeless plan implementation, and the grant total was in the amount of $154,000. And this was paid by the County of Los Angeles. This is something that was awarded to us, and the council authorized the execution of the grant. And the grant covered 3 programs. It was $100,000 for the rental assistance program and $44,000 for the funding of 2 shelters, which we partnered with the Salvation Army Bell Shelter. And then we also had $100,000 that was allocated for the purchase of supplies and also for a storage bin. But as we know, when COVID hit, we were no longer able to refer our homeless neighbors to the Bell Shelter. Therefore, we had to ask the Los Angeles County to allow us to utilize that funding to increase our budget amount of the rental assistance program. So by doing that, we were able to increase the original $100,000 to $139,000 to assist our residents in the rental assistance program. However, because we had not planned our rental assistance to be utilized so quickly, we had not included it in the budget for fiscal year 20. So since the allocations were not included in the fiscal year 20, we are asking that the City Council approve that we reallocate these funds to our current year, or to the fiscal year 20. And it is recommended that the City Council adopt Resolution 20024, approving the budget amendment to modify the appropriations that both Adriana Figueroa and I discussed and presented to you. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Adriana. Questions? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
This is Claire Stallings. I move the item for City Council to adopt Resolution 20024.
Thank you. Do I have a second?
This is Gian. I don't know if you can hear me, but I'll second.
Yes, I hear you. Thank you. Okay, we have by Claire Stallings and a second by Councilmember Gian to adopt Resolution 2004. Roll call, please.
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Claire Stallings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. We'll move on to item B, the report for appropriations of Measure H.
That was actually included in the presentation that you just heard, Madam Mayor.
Okay, so you don't have anything to add to what we've already heard, so we'll see if there's any questions on Section B. Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved, almost.
Claire Stallings, second.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear it seconded.
Claire Stallings.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a motion by Vice Mayor Olmos, seconded by Councilmember Cuellar Stallings that we read by title only and adopt resolution number 20024. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Claire Stallings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. Thank you. With that, we're going to move on to comments and committee reports from council members. And let's see, what was it? We'll start with you, Councilmember Gann.
Okay. I usually say real quick, but this one isn't going to be so quick. First of all, I appreciate all the public comments today. They are all valid concerns. I am also open to dialogue with anyone who would like to discuss any issue in depth where we can dialogue. I have met with numerous constituents, and I also want to mention 2 of the speakers tonight were both past and present commissioners that I have appointed. I said before, I put people on commissions that don't always see eye to eye with me. I think it's important to have people around you that have different perspectives, sometimes the same, sometimes different, to enlighten each other and to look at each other's perspectives. That's how you grow. That's how you evolve. And that's why I do what I do. And either of my commissioners, I've told them both, If I have a different point of view, let me hear yours, and let's come to some ground somewhere. Maybe you'll convince me, maybe I'll convince you, maybe both of us will see each other's perspective. With that being said, I want to say about the fireworks. First of all, I don't want anybody to be arrested for a felony who likes the safe and sane fireworks. That is not the message I am trying to convey. But I have received calls, texts, and emails regarding fireworks. And so when I say something on the dais or, in these council meetings, I am taking into consideration what people have reached out to express to me, and then I am their voice. So when I tell you I've gotten calls, texts, and emails regarding fireworks, I put forward a motion a couple months ago to not have fireworks this year based on the civil unrest that we were having and the social distancing with COVID and for other reasons. So what I've tried to speak about, and maybe it came across a little aggressive or assertive, was about illegal fireworks and explosives because of the information I received from my community members. Things like if people with PTSD are scared out of their minds. It scares the elderly living in senior living facilities. The kids with autism, they're hypersensitive to those noises. Pets that are takeoff and people losing their pets, which are like their children. So that is why I take these concerns seriously, because I take the issues of the community seriously. And I'd like to real quick, here I go again with my real quick, read something I got just before council meeting tonight. So I wish the city would address the fact that we have too many illegal fireworks and that the sheriff's office has refused, in capital letters, to come out when called for the same. The promise of more patrols is a farce. Not one time did they come down my street, even though I reported 3 different houses using explosive fireworks. I still have some of the projectiles that landed in my yard, but the city sent the street sweeper on Sunday at 6 a.m. The reason why I read that is because what I try to do is bring everyone's concerns to the forefront, and then as a group we have to decide which way we're going to vote. But your issues are being addressed when you bring them to me. So, and then I heard somebody say, I'm concerned about victimless crimes. In order for there to be a crime, there has to be a victim. So when I speak of crimes, there is a victim. Okay, so I've spoken before last year on fireworks about if we're going to have safe and sane fireworks, we should have education. I spoke of personal knowledge of a young kid in his early teens who blew off his hand and has gone through the rest of his life with a prosthetic. So I think fireworks are dangerous. I think we need education, and I think we need to let people know you're taking a big risk when you use these illegal fireworks. So I cannot reinvent the penalty for crimes, but if we collaborate to deter quality life issues like street racing in Paramount, which has led to deaths in Paramount and serious injuries, life-altering, one can only be arrested for a felony if they commit a felony and then prosecuted. But you can't tell me that these are victimless crimes when these street takeovers go out of control. I personally, as a police officer, have seen when cars go out of control and they take out the spectators, and when they go into houses in the side of a house where people are sleeping. And so they're dangerous. They're dangerous. And so if we can deter any of these deaths or serious injuries from occurring, that's what we're trying to do. We're not trying to persecute or hold anybody down. If one, so I wanted to mention that. And then the other was the committee that was formed in Paramount on race relations to address racial issues within the city, formed without any invite to any council members to participate, or at least I didn't get an invite. But I was invited, and I attended the Black Student Union Night at Paramount High School, where they did Black Lives Matter reenactment, and we dialogued and we talked about education for both Black Lives Matter and police and sheriff's department. I personally invited both a deputy and an LAPD officer to speak, so it wasn't just my insight or my opinion. And we talked about social justice for disadvantaged communities. And I will just say this. I grew up in Paramount. I know what it's like to live here. I know what it's like to be amongst neighbors, amongst the police department, the sheriff's department. When I came on the job in 1987, there were very few female Latina officers. Let me tell you, that created its own set of problems. So I do understand what you're talking about. I have no problem if Sergeant Sanchez, who can attest to this, wants to attest that when an incident has occurred in the city, I have had no problem stating when I thought a better job, resolution, or contact could have been handled differently. Because I come from law enforcement, because I have a family in law enforcement, isn't going to stop me from calling the kettle black. If I think something should have been handled differently, I think Sergeant Sanchez will attest, and even Captain Springle. I have no problem saying that. I'm not only on the side of law enforcement, I'm on the side of my community where I reside as well. When emails are addressed to all the council members, a letter is prepared, signed by the mayor, and emailed. But if anyone would like to meet or contact me, we can have a conversation. I prefer a conversation as opposed to an email or a text so that nothing could be taken out of context. Then last, the budget question was asked that I didn't vote. I had a very personal family issue that occurred that night, and yes, I left. But I will tell you how I would have voted. I would have voted with the other council members to approve the budget. It doesn't mean we don't address the issue at hand or the concerns at hand, and those are things that we're trying to gather the information so we can make a good decision come our next budget. We're not going to make any decisions without a conscious thought, dialogue, and hearing out all the issues that are involved. So I also went to some EcoRapid meetings and that, but I've gone on a long time, but I think these were important issues to address, so forgive me for the length of it. Carry on.
Okay, thank you for your comments. We'll move on to Cuellar Stallings.
I hope everyone had a wonderful 4th of July celebration with their families. I know I received quite a few emails, texts, calls regarding regarding the fireworks, and residents were very upset and concerned, and I did my best to address that. We are going to have a forum or a summit to address these concerns once this once the coronavirus is gone. And we are going to hear you. We're going to listen. We're going to take all your concerns into consideration. And we are going to come to a conclusion regarding this. And myself personally, I have a granddaughter who's 11 years old. She was petrified with the fireworks going off. We have 3 pets, 3 cute little dogs, and one of them, he was really terrified. And I sympathize. I sympathize with all of you, and especially the ones with children, with Councilwoman Gillen said, the ones with autism. My husband also is a Vietnam veteran, and he also addressed to me about the vets, having the PST, and it was, a very, very active firework night. And I am listening, and I am here, and we are going to address that. I also want to address my sincere condolences to the Diaz family of this young lady of 14 years old that attended Paramount West Campus with my granddaughter, Alyssa. She passed away in an accident on the 4th of July, and my deepest condolences to her parents and her family. I wanted to wish happy birthday to our council member Brenda and my husband Danny. And also there's a resident, Manny Martinez, who lives in Paramount, and he's 90 years old today also. So I hope and I pray, and as Ms. Gillen also addressed, I grew up in Paramount. I know how Paramount was 20 years ago, even 30 years or 40 years ago. And I want Paramount to continue being a safe place for all of us to raise our families, and for myself to grow old and be able to see my grandchildren, my great-grandchildren, be raised in Paramount. And I want to just, anyway, thank you, and have a good evening, and God bless you.
Thank you, Councilmember Cuellar-Stallings. And we'll move on to Vice Mayor Olmos.
Thank you, Mayor Lemons. A couple of things that I would like to discuss and share with you, and Councilmember Guillen, just to put on the record, none of us were invited from the council. I think this community forum is, going to be involved with community members, some youth commissioners, some pastors, to kind of bring in the unity of the community. So I know it's still in the planning stages. Maybe we will be invited in the future, but I just wanted to put that on the record that none of us were invited. Another key thing is what I wanted to also talk about is what's going on with COVID right now in the city of Paramount. For those of you who are watching, and I put a lot of blogs out there and posts that, we are over 900 positive cases in the city of Paramount. So Mayor Lemons and John, I would like us to kind of figure out a more educational approach on what's going on with COVID. I know the billboards were being used for the 4th of July and fireworks. I'm hoping that we can do some education on those billboards of putting the importance of social distancing and wearing a mask. So again, I'd like to put up that out there if we can have further discussion on the education of COVID. As you all know, thanks to Anthony Rendon, speaker, and St. John's, the city will be hosting some testing sites in July and in August, held at Paramount Park. So please look at the website, get an appointment. I know they're filling out fast, and from what I understand, they may be adding some more days. Also, going back to Mr. Lopez, who did address how we felt about Black Lives Matter and defunding the police. And what I have to say is that I think we all in agreement that we all want to fight for freedom, and justice. We all want, we all understand that BLM is against police brutality. We want that. But as elected officials for the city of Paramount, I think our goal is to raise awareness of what's happening in our community. And if there's issues here, we need to identify those and address them. So again, I think that's for discussion. That's what our community meetings are going to be about. And Mr. Lopez and anybody out there, I think what Councilmember Guillen had mentioned, call us if there's an issue of concern. We're a phone call away. All of our numbers are out there for you guys to give us a call. I agree with Councilmember Guillen. I'm not about a text or an email. Give me a call. Let's have a discussion, and I gladly share my feelings and on how I feel about an issue. That's all I have. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, Vice Mayor Olmos. Councilmember Aguayo.
Yeah, there's so much going on just day to day, and just things are changing. So I think that we need to do a better job of getting the information out. I know it's on social media, and, I know the city does the email blast, but there's still a large portion of the community that is saying that they don't know. They don't know. They don't have the information. They don't know when the council meetings are. So, and I know that the city has just improved on this a lot, but there's more we can do. I don't know what it is, but it's something maybe for us to think about. So the other thing is, of course, continue for all the residents doing your part. If they have to go out, shop local, continue practicing the safe habits. I think people were getting tired of being at home, and they kind of, I don't want to say they forget, but they're maybe we're being more relaxed about these things. The wearing the mask, the 6 feet distance, washing our hands, that type of thing. To answer Mr. Lopez's question, I'm going to start by, he addressed the issue of books. And no, I haven't read anything current or anything from even the recommended Black Lives Matter reading list that I know is out there. The recommendations are always welcomed. They're always welcomed. I'm an avid reader, so that's always welcomed. Now, on the other point, do I support the movement? Do I support Black Lives Matter? This is really close to home. I have nieces and nephews that are Black, so yes, there's no question about it. And I've discussed that with a number of people, Councilmember Gillen is absolutely, right when she says that, I prefer a phone call versus a text message or an email, because that leaves room for maybe a misinterpretation of something. So, pick up the phone and call us. We want you to contact us with your concerns so we can help. We are listening. Sometimes it's a process, though, and sometimes things, we want them to happen overnight, and we can't do it that way. Firework issue, we've been dealing with this. This is the worst that I have ever seen it in my entire life. So just, and this one's also personal. I have a nephew that is now 11 years old. When he was 3, he actually received 2nd and 3rd degree burns because of a neighbor with illegal fireworks. So this is something that the residents are probably not going to be 100% in agreement, but that's why it's really important that they participate when we have that fireworks summit. There's so much today. John Kavanaugh, our attorney. I am looking forward to hearing the update on the committee regarding forced fireworks and the street racing. A felony is not something to be taken lightly, and this is still open to for discussion. It's just again, it's a process. So we're trying to. It's a serious issue. The last thing we want is for somebody to get hurt. So it can't be taken lightly. A felony is also not to be taken lightly. So there's still stuff to discuss when it comes to this. That is it. Just again, on a lighter and more pleasant note, happy birthday actually to Councilmember Aquia Stallings that celebrated her birthday earlier this month, and of course Vice Mayor Olmos that's celebrating her birthday today. So that's it for me. Have a great night, and God bless Paramount.
Thank you, Councilmember Aguayo. I'd actually like to thank all of the council members for, your very thoughtful comments and your efforts to communicate, with the residents of Paramount. I think it's important that those who are listening understand that, yes, we do have people who participate within the council meetings, but there's also a whole lot of people that we hear from in the community in other ways. We all live in neighborhoods, so we hear from our neighbors. We receive emails, we receive phone calls, we receive texts, and it's about trying to create balance. Trying to, make the best decisions that work for the majority of the people. That's the best that we can do. We're never going to please everyone. It's just not possible. But please don't ever think that your comments aren't heard when you say you didn't hear us, you didn't listen. It's that there are other people speaking to us too, and we're weighing everything and we're taking in all the information. And when we come forward with decisions, we want them to be the best decisions for our community. In light of that, I have to go on record with one statement which has to do with, the civil unrest and the Black Lives Matter situation. I've received several emails, some positive, some negative on the topic. Some who are critical of me, some who praise me, and I can't put it any more simply than this. It's very difficult to sum up in a tweet or in an Instagram post something that is so personal to me and something that affects so many people, and something that your words are gauged so heavily on what you do. So it's not easy to make a simple comment and sum it up. I've seen firsthand the devastating effects of racism. It's something that I was exposed to at a very young age and in a very real way as a child. So I have a very personal stake. I have educate myself. I've been to seminars on racism. I've watched a lot of public media on racism. I've talked to a lot of my Black friends and had very poignant, outspoken discussions, and I bless them for being able to give that back to me. I have Black family members and Latino family members, and they know where my heart is. They know how I feel. And along the lines of, I think it was a comment that Ms. DeCasia said when she quoted speaking out. I think that's the most important thing that we can do, and it's something that I have lived by since I was a young child. It hasn't been easy. I haven't always been in the majority, but when you see wrong, you have to speak out. And racism, to me, is nothing but ignorance. There is no other way to describe it. Anything that perpetuates the devaluing of a person based upon their race comes from ignorance. I also want to applaud the staff and the City Council for taking what I do believe is a real leadership role in putting together this community forum. It's not the snap decisions that make a difference in our community. It's the very thoughtful ones, and wanting to make a real impression and wanting to make a real difference in what's happening. And I think that's what we're trying to do. We don't need to put out a quick comment or a quick fix answer. That's what's been happening all along. Somebody says, oh, we'll do this, so we'll do that, and it's a quick fix. That's not the way that you solve anything. You have to be methodical about it, and you have to have a plan, and you have to go ahead and you have to address it in a very real way. And I think the members that are going to participate on this committee and the topics that they're putting together and the in-depth discussion that we're going to have is going to make a difference in our community. And we must always remember the issues that we face are paramount issues. We cannot compare ourselves to what any other council member does in another city, to what any other city administration does. Paramount is paramount. We must deal with our residents. We must seek to satisfy their needs and their concerns. And with that, I will close my comments and I will turn it back over to Mr. Moreno for staff comments.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. I do have a few here. In follow-up to Vice Mayor Olmos's question about COVID-19 education, yes, we do have the electronic billboards that we rented for the 4th of July, and even before that, we did rent them for COVID messages that we did put out when COVID first hit us back in March and April. We have kept those, and we have already deployed them today with new messages for COVID. Additionally, and that would be in English and in Spanish. Additionally, we are almost done redoing the existing signs at our parks. At some of the entrance to our parks, we have reminders about staying 6 feet apart and wearing masks, those types of things. We are redoing those both in English and Spanish, and I expect those to be done by the end of the week, so we'll be reposting those as well. And we do continue to do social media briefs, things of that nature when we get them from county health. So we are definitely trying when it comes to the communication aspect, and we will continue to do that. In regards to the unity in the community effort, I'd just like to remind everybody, this was an effort that started by Pastor Grady Jones back in 2016. At the time, he pulled people together and he hosted this at his church. So the idea was to revive what Pastor Jones had started. And our role has always been to facilitate and help him in any way we can. And the thought was it would come from the clergy, it would come from the community. We, as a city staff, are not technically on the committee itself. Again, it's clergy, it's community, it's school district. It's not us that are involved. Our goal is to facilitate, make sure it happens, keep things moving along. As I had mentioned, the committee is going to meet in a couple days. Once more, and I anticipate that they'll have their first discussion, unity in the community discussion, towards the end of July, early part of August. The third thing that I want to mention is regarding some of the public comments made about the contract rates for law enforcement. There is no city that I know of that is currently negotiating a lower rate. believe me, if there was, I would know about it. I'm very tuned in to all the law enforcement services contract rates. I sit on the liability trust fund board. We review the claims. I'm very involved with that, with the Contract Cities Association as well. And I can almost bet that if there were one city that was negotiating a lower rate, that everybody else would hear about it, and it would be a domino effect, and everybody would get would want that exact same rate. Now, not saying that there are cities that are lowering their costs for law enforcement, and that's by eliminating deputies. So I just want to make that clear there. Lastly, I do want to express my continually appreciation for the support of the City Council. During this crazy time, staff is doing really all they can to respond to the pandemic while trying to maintain the quality of life for the residents and businesses that we serve here. So I just want to give acknowledgement as well to our staff for rising above and doing more in this time. I'm just extremely impressed by the great group of women and men that serve this community, and how they've come and joined together just to really make a difference in people's lives during this time. And lastly, I'd like to once again say happy birthday to Councilmember Cuellar Stallings and Vice Mayor Olmos. And that's it from comments from staff, Madam Mayor. Madam Mayor?
Thanks, John. Before I adjourn the meeting, I just like to add my comments to everyone else and say happy birthday, Brenda. Happy birthday, Velma. And I think it was Manny Martinez, you said, Velma, who's 90 years old?
Yes, he lives on Happy Street.
Oh, so he's a neighbor, huh?
He's your neighbor.
So congratulations to all of you. Many happy returns. And with that, we'll adjourn this meeting to July 21st, 2020 at 5 p.m. Okay, I'm going to call to order the successor agency for the Paramount Redevelopment Agency for July 7th, 2020. Can I have a roll call of council members, please?
Councilmember Aguayo.
Here.
Councilmember Guillen.
Here.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings.
Here.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Here.
Mayor Lemons.
Here. We have any public comments?
No, ma'am.
Consent calendar approval, please.
So moved, almost.
Second, Cuellar Stallings.
Okay, moved by Vice Mayor Olmos, seconded by Councilmember Cuellar Stallings. A roll call, please.
Councilmember Aguayo.
Yes.
Councilmember Guillen.
Yes.
Councilmember Cuellar Stallings.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Olmos.
Yes.
Mayor Lemons.
Yes. And with that, I adjourn this meeting to August 4th, 2020 at 6 p.m. Thank you, everyone, for your time and your wonderful comments. God bless everyone. Good evening.